The Reversion. I'm Anthony Westgate. Glad that you've decided to join us here. Welcome on in if you're here on YouTube, which we are only broadcasting to YouTube tonight, so kind of a special exclusive. So welcome on in. I see you guys in there. Shalom, my friends. We are going to be covering, as the stream title says here, kind of the current thing discourse that I would imagine will remain that way for quite some time. And I purposely kind of held off on covering this. I did discuss it in the previous stream a little bit because that was on 9/11, and there was some, I guess, parallels that occurred in this event, which we'll cover tonight with 9/11. Believe it or not, all roads seem to lead back to 9/11, don't they? So if you enjoyed the previous stream where we covered the 9/11 as an occult ritual, you may find this one interesting as well, because what we're going to do is we're going to be kind of diving under the surface of all of this conspiracy talk, unfolding the official narrative. There's been a lot of noise online. And, we'll be talking about what makes this different than previous mass conspiracies. I mean, because this is something that I would consider a mass conspiracy. Nobody really knows what happened. And it seems to be that we actually know less the more information comes out, at least from the official investigation. Now, I know that this may be a tricky subject to navigate because a lot of this evidence that they're finding or crafting, what have you, may be reserved for the trial, right? Because there's a suspect in custody, and he's alive, so they have him on suicide watch, and he's going to be having a trial, I suppose, unless he gets Epsteined. But as it stands, I think tomorrow they will be having the first hearing, if I'm not mistaken, done virtually. And this Tyler Robinson character, which we're going to be looking into a little, he's a broke college student, or I guess he's a college dropout rather. I don't think he finished college. And so he's just a broke dude, and he can't afford a defense attorney, so it's going to be provided by the state. And the last I heard, that was even a tricky endeavor, because who wants to be this supposed assassin's defense attorney for such a huge event with all of the underlying consequences involved with all of this? So, and thanks, Driver. I see your comment here. Great article, trying to not get too deep down that rabbit hole, but you said, well, what needs to be said. Thank you. Yeah, I'm trying as well. I think, honestly, the best way to avoid that is to just take a break from social media, honestly, because it's just dominating the feed, and I would imagine it will be like that for, I don't know, a good month at least, because the nature of these things, it's usually about a 5 to 7 day news cycle, at least on social media, with like big events like that. And for this one, I would imagine that's going to be at least double that. It'll be continued to be discussed, but it may not be like the dominant thing. It's just like, what's the next current thing? What's going to be the next thing that happens? I mean, we all thought that it was that stabbing on the bus with that Ernia girl from Ukraine. That was holding the public discourse for, at least on the online right, for a good 2 weeks before this happened. I think actually it was within that week, I believe. So even that was just about a week. And then it got totally interrupted and nearly memory holed by this very unfortunate, tragic event. Now, I will say that, I wasn't really a fan of Charlie Kirk, as you could imagine, for obvious reasons. But I had, it was weird when this happened, as I wrote in the article here, which I might as well pull this up. I just published this yesterday. Let me just share this. So this is the article I just published yesterday. Um, and, you know, it's mainly about like the psychological warfare involved with all this. So maybe I'll use this kind of as a template for where we'll go in this discussion here tonight. So yeah, if you're just joining, welcome on in. And I guess brace yourself for all this. I mean, unfortunately, this is, another tragedy that we're covering here. It's not like I prefer to cover these horrific, tragic events, but I mean, as we try to understand the modern world we live in, this is what's going on. I mean, we're just surrounded by evil and tragedy, and it's important to not focus on this stuff, obviously, but when it is, basically everyday discussion, something like this at least, where it's being discussed at the dinner table and things like that, I think events like this, they need to be addressed to some degree. And so we kind of need to figure out how to navigate this, right? So I'm with you guys in trying to do that. I'm not trying to say that I've got it all figured out. But this was the article I published yesterday. Did Israel ritually murder Charlie Kirk? And that may sound kind of crazy, but those of you who tuned into the previous stream, you'll probably get some idea of where this is going here. So there's all these, as I'm saying here, dark coincidences, or I suppose you can call them like evil synchronicities that occurred in different ways leading up to and throughout this event. And so I started with a Michael Hoffman quote. Now, I will do another quick promo here. I just recorded a podcast episode last night that I'm really excited about with a friend of mine, Payload, he goes by on Substack. And he's written quite a bit on Michael Hoffman. And I found that we kind of pull a lot from the same resources. So we're kind of working within the same knowledge base. And it was a fantastic discussion. We went on for over 2 hours. We talked a bit about this and the JFK conspiracy, because that relates that the JFK assassination. JFK, don't forget, was, a lot of people don't remember this or they don't know this. The first shot that hit JFK was through the throat. So you can see in the footage, maybe we'll watch it later if I can remember, but you'll see in the JFK assassination footage, before he's blasted in the head, he's holding his throat, like the front of his throat. And that's when they all realized that there was, they were being shot at. That's not even the only thing. And there's a lot of like weird occult stuff. It was kind of like a Masonic ritual that was the JFK murder. But we're not going to be talking about that specifically. But anyway, so in this article, I'm basically just sharing my experience. I might as well read it here because I wanted to share this anyway. But I say here, on the afternoon of Wednesday, September 10th, 2025, I experienced something I will never forget as long as I live. I had just gotten done cleaning up after my dogs made a mess and took the opportunity to habitually check my X feed. Nothing could have prepared me for what I was about to see. The instant I opened the app, I was confronted with a disclaimer and a close-up video of Charlie Kirk sitting in the usual scene with mic in hand at a TPUSA event. I mistakenly let my impulses get the best of me and clicked the video, which I surely do not need to describe. And a second after he was shot, he uttered his last words, "Violence." I knew I watched this man die. And that's true because if you were one of the unfortunate people like myself who found out about this from the one video everyone said to not watch, which was the close-up video, that's how I found out that this even happened. Before I even read anything about it, I didn't get an alert. I didn't get like a text message. Like nobody told me that this happened. This is exactly how it happened, how I just explained. I literally just opened the app. This was the first piece of content that showed up, and I just impulsively clicked a video. So I had no context as to what was going on, what happened. It was just a Charlie Kirk video with a disclaimer. And so I'm like, what is this? And what a way to find out. I mean, it's basically, I think, like the closest way to find out that happened next to actually being there in person. So I was very much traumatized by that video, and I still am. I'm still like processing that. And unfortunately, just with the nature of the algorithm, it's like you just are exposed to it constantly without your consent. And so I think I say that here. After collecting my thoughts, I realized something that deeply disturbed me. I just watched a gore video that I would have never otherwise consented to watch because it is what the algorithm put in front of my face the moment I opened the app. Being a hardened internet veteran, I had seen my fair share of gore videos as a curious teen with access to the infamous rotten.com website. Don't go there if you don't know what that is. I don't even know if it's still up, but that was an old, like, mid to late 90s gore website. Like back then, you actually had to like visit websites like to see memes and stuff like that. So that's what that is. But yeah, it was a whole gore website that had all these videos. And the reason it was different, so I kind of explain that here. This one hit different. And that's because on that website, it was like you didn't know those people. It was all like mostly third world footage and stuff of like just some retards like, on the job that were like messing with like equipment that they shouldn't have been, like sticking their hand in a meat grinder, stuff like that. And it's like, oh, well, mostly it's like, well, that sucks for you. But this was, that's why this was different. Love him or hate him, Charlie Kirk was someone who we all developed a parasocial relationship with because he was just on the feed all the time. Like if you're in the right wing online space on any platform, you're seeing videos of Charlie Kirk every day. So whether you're watching them or not, his face was there every day on a daily basis. But that wasn't the only thing that made me sick to my stomach. It was also the fact that I found out about his death in the most traumatic way possible, aside from witnessing it in person. Yeah, that's what I just said. So nothing could have prepared us for that. And this is the nature of algorithmically propagated psychological warfare. There was no consent, only mind grape, all to groom us for the next ritual. I'm sorry to hear that, Orthodox boomer grandma. Yeah, and I'm not saying like everyone that happens to is dumb. Obviously, there's just accidents that happen. But for this website, as far as I remember, and I was a kid, I was a teenager, but most of this stuff was just like idiots playing around with stuff. But I'm sorry to hear that. One quarter of his foot. Yeah, my deacon actually got I think his toes amputated because he had some health issue. I think maybe diabetes related or something, and he's able to still serve. So I think you can be okay with partial foot missing. Whether or not the bullet. Okay, so here I'm saying, as shocking as Kirk's viral bloody assassination was, it's imperative to remember that we were supposed to see Donald Trump's head get blown off on the world stage in July of 2024. By the way, I'm going to try my best to kind of like filter my language, but I'm not very good at it. I have no idea what you can and can't say on YouTube. Well, I kind of do, but I'm certainly treading a fine line here. So I don't know how long I'm going to actually be monetized on here. It's probably a matter of time. So yeah, if you're tuned in, get the donations in while you can, I guess. I will figure something out. And I'm actually building something like an alternative way for you guys to donate so we don't have to go through Super Chat. But as of right now, it works. So I'm saying whether or not the bullet actually intended to hit Trump's head or pierce his ear, the psychological warfare effectively primes the world to witnessing bloodshed by political violence. All right, so we just saw this happen with Trump last year, just over a year ago. And even though it just nicked his ear, there was bloodshed. And that's what, think about that viral photo of Trump holding his fist up, right? And there's blood dripping down his face. And it was kind of, this epic, monumental, historic photo. Everyone knew it as soon as they saw it. And that embedded itself in our subconscious. Like, even though it's viewed as this historic, like, epic, heroic photo, there's bloodshed in that photo. And it was just after someone shot him. right? So like this was already, our subconscious was already primed for this, even though this was much more gory and he actually was unfortunately killed by it. So while not a politician, Charlie Kirk undoubtedly had the biggest influence on let me make this bigger, on an entire generation of voters. The New York Times called TPUSA the nation's preeminent conservative youth organization. And that's an important thing to know. So again, whether you like him or not, and you agreed with his what his messaging was on his platform, the fact is, this guy had a massive following, and it was growing. He had an entire generation captured, and whether they were people who hated him or not, I mean, they all showed up to the event. Like, you've all seen those videos. Think about those videos. How many, like, usually the videos you watch of him, they're not of him agreeing with another conservative. They're him debating all these libtards, right? So people love him or hate him. They were showing up to these events. So he had captured this entire kind of like college age demographic. They all knew who he was. So like you might go out on the street and not everybody knows outside of the internet who he is. But I guarantee if you talk to, 20 college students, they all know who he is, or at least 19 out of 20. You would have to basically be not online and not involved in any political discourse in college, which is extremely rare these days, to not know who Charlie Kirk was. So, and if you think about it, so Charlie Kirk was about to turn 32, and that means by the time Trump was done with his second term, Charlie Kirk would have been old enough to run for president. And he already had all the momentum going with TPUSA, with these college events and the funding, to essentially like flip a switch and turn it into a presidential campaign. Now, I don't know if he had plans to run, but that is just how big and influential his movement was, that he absolutely had the power and the influence to have a legitimate political run for presidency. He was already a household name, so like he already had that momentum, even though he wasn't a politician. I mean, it's pretty normal now. I mean, Trump wasn't a politician. It's pretty normal for like non-politicians to run for office now. So that was partly why he was so dangerous, and especially in the context we're talking about tonight, right? Which is like, why would this guy who was essentially a shill for Israel get killed by Israel? Why would that be a thing? We wouldn't have even have thought that, like, we would have laughed at someone who even suggested that about Charlie Kirk, 10 days ago. That was like not even a question. That was no one was even thinking that about Charlie Kirk. He was one of the last people you'd think that of, right? But we'll see that's, we'll see why there was a shift, a turning point, if you will, in Charlie's stance on that stuff. And I'm sure, I know we're covering this a week later, so I'm sure many of you have like seen and know what I'm talking about, seen the videos and stuff. But, and I did want to give this some time. As I was saying before, I haven't covered this exclusively since it happened. And it's mostly because like, I wanted to kind of gather enough information to present something substantial. And I'm not even saying that I have something substantial here, but I think after a week, we know some stuff to make some deductions, not conclusions, but to kind of see what is likely. And again, I'm alluding to the title here, but there's, and I also didn't want to like kind of like grift or clickbait off of this tragedy right away. If I were to do a live stream like a couple days or 3 days after, it's like, I don't know. We still don't know much. And he wasn't even buried by then, It's like, let's give this a little bit of time. So, it's been a week now, and some really interesting things have come to light here. So I'm saying here, a surface level view may presume any link to the Trump assassination attempt was due to TPUSA acting as an arm of the Republican Party to recruit young voters to the MAGA movement, as Kirk consistently defended every single one of Trump's policies. That's something I noticed recently when I started watching some of his videos. Like, I haven't seen Charlie Kirk. I mean, have any of you in the chat, like, have you guys seen Charlie Kirk counter any of Trump's policies publicly? I haven't. I wasn't like watching his videos religiously or anything, but from the hours that I've seen of him, I mean, anytime a Trump policy comes up, he becomes like a MAGA, MAGA mouthpiece. So, and think about it, he's giving out all these MAGA hats to everyone. So this was effectively, TPUSA is effectively a Republican, like, grassroots organization, and a lot of their funding came from the RNC and all of these, all these big Republican donors, and many Zionist donors too. So it's no mystery that he was also a notorious Zionist who unapologetically defended Israel's genocide in Gaza. And then here's where I'm citing the Gray Zone report, which a lot of people there's a lot of controversy over this report. I mean, this was by Max Blumenthal, who is a secular Jewish reporter. I think he's like an atheist or something. And he's like, people have said he's a communist or whatever. I don't know too much about Max Blumenthal, but a lot of people don't trust his journalism. And I guess a lot of the stuff he was mentioning in this article was a matter of hearsay, and we don't have receipts for it. And now, I think I just saw today, people are speculating that a lot of this information, this like insider anonymous resource he had for this stuff, they're speculating that it was Candace Owens, who hasn't provided any receipts either. So it's like, do what you want with that. But there was some stuff in his article that, that is not really being challenged as far as I can tell. Like this here, from its inception, Kirk's career was propelled by Zionist donors. It's like, who's going to challenge that? Who showered his young organization with money through neoconservative outfits like the David Horowitz Freedom Center. He repaid his wealthy backers over the years by unleashing a relentless fire hose of anti-Palestinian and Islamophobic diatribes. Okay, I don't care about Islamophobic. But I mean, that's like, okay, so that's actually an important part. So it wasn't like it wasn't a lot Islamophobic in the sense that, we need to like, in a little bit it was like, deport all these Muslims and stuff. They're not compatible with American culture. But a lot of it was because that's the sentiment of the Zionists. It's like, it's all anti-Islam for like different reasons than we are as Christians. So he accepted all these propaganda trips to Israel and sternly shut down nationalist forces challenging his support for Israel during TPUSA events. So I think, seen those videos before too. There's some recent ones where you see these like, these kind of like based anons or whatever that are like, very bravely, in my opinion, citing the Talmud and stuff and challenging him and being like, how can you support this stuff? Listen to what they say about Christianity. And so like he had knowledge of this stuff, I think. And, I kind of have some sympathy for Charlie Kirk, because this is how he started out. He was like a teenager when he started all this. I think he was like 18 or 19 years old. He was a kid, right? He wasn't like this giga-based, like anti-Semite, pole tart or something, He was just a young Republican and an evangelical. So he adopted this Zionist heresy just by default, like he didn't really know any better. And because he adopted it early on, that's where the funding came in. And you at a certain point when you're really you get all this success and your movement's growing and everything, it's like insanely risky to change course and start changing your messaging that is contradictory to your donors. I mean, this is a lot like politics. This is kind of no different, really. It's just that he wasn't actually in a position of office, a political office, you know? So like he had all of these political donors for the RNC, and it's like it would kind of be really risky from at least from a financial perspective to change course. And so in recent months, we saw that that's basically what started happening, was that he was shifting his views on Israel. And, you know, we're going to watch a couple videos, but you'll see that like even in his criticism of Israel, he kept emphasizing redundantly, like, look, I don't hate Jews. I don't hate Israel. I want them to win. But, you know, and he kept having to frame it that way. So you can tell that he was like really kind of like nervous about expressing this. So yeah, again, we'll watch that in a bit here. So here I'm explaining basically what's going on with the discourse here. It has been 1 week since the assassination of Charlie Kirk, and each day new information is coming out from both the official investigation and the conspiracy community, both of which are further distorting the event into a confusing mess. And that is quite an understatement, because I would say about 90% of the quote conspiracy content that I've seen on X is what I would call conspiracy slop. It's like TikTok brain rot for conspiracies. It's really bad. It's so nonsensical. I mean, you have people saying that, first of all, there's a whole group of people that maybe some of you are here tonight that believe that Charlie Kirk didn't even actually get killed. And I've had some interactions with these people, because it's just fascinating to me that like you actually believe that. So for example, one guy was saying this is all Masonic theater, which is like, okay, there could be some Masonic influence to this. It could be a Masonic ritual. In fact, it probably is to some degree. But they go as far as saying that because it's a Masonic ritual, no one actually died, which is retarded, because these ritual, like, for it to be a ritual, there needs to be death. And it's almost like undermining the cryptocracy to say that they are not so evil that they would actually kill people. So I don't even entertain these conspiracies, because they're very retarded. We know throughout history that this is how they operate, that there actually is real bloodshed that's involved with it. So to say like, oh, well, it's just Masonic theater and that's it, and that means that the Masons aren't so evil that they kill people, they're just these, boomer secret society or something. It's like, what? That doesn't even make sense. That's not how this stuff works. And so when you press them on it, they'll be like, oh, it was a blood pack that they use in movies when someone gets shot in the chest. I'm sorry. I unfortunately saw the close-up video, and it very much came out of his neck, and it was so much that there's no possible way that there could have been a little device wired to his body that we didn't see, that was containing like gallons of blood or fake blood. Like, I'm sorry, that just does not, like, I'm not entertaining that. It's just so beyond retarded. So there's a lot of that kind of stuff that's just like poisoning the well. It's making it very hard to discern what's going on. Another thing I kept seeing was like, you had all these guys around him, like his security, some were his friends, and those guys were making all these secret signals. They were signaling for the shooter to take his shot, which, like, have you ever looked down the scope of a rifle before? You're not looking around for signals for the people around your target. And then also one of those guys was literally Frank Turek, who's another Protestant apologist and a close friend of Charlie Kirk, who was like there when, I mean, he just actually had a really heartfelt story he shared about what happened after they escorted Kirk's body out, and because he was in the SUV with them while they were driving to the hospital. That's on Frank Turek's channel. And people were like, oh, that's like that guy. Who is that guy? He tipped his hat. He's sending these secret signals. It's like, you guys are so retarded. You didn't even look into who that is. There was people saying that it was there was people on the side that they had like some kind of like James Bond style hit, like a concealed pistol, like in a cufflink. And like, oh, look, that guy was adjusting his sleeve right as the shot hit him. That's the real shooter. He was right there in plain sight. And no one flinched around him, by the way. It's just like, I don't entertain this stuff. I'm sorry. I don't entertain it. And you shouldn't either. So that's just to give you an idea of what's going on in the timeline. It's just mass retardation. So it's a lot of like a waste of time. And by trying to find out what's going on any kind of like algorithmically distributed timeline, you're going to be wasting a lot of time trying to find stuff that is more plausible, because you have to dig through all this crap. So, and it's like, and then it becomes harder to discern as you get more confused about what's actually going on. Speculation of a Mossad conspiracy. Oh wait, I skipped something here. I have personally been, okay, so here I'm saying what I said earlier, that, why I'm waiting to draw any conclusions, which I still kind of am, even though I have this title here. I'm leaning towards it being Israel, okay? Just to give the disclaimer. It's like, I know that there's no like dancing Israelis smoking gun here yet. Although actually I'm going to show that there is something that's pretty, I think the most damning evidence so far that I've seen. So we'll look at that in a sec here. Is it fair to assume Israel involvement prior to discovering evidence of dancing Israelis? As Ron Unz argues in American Pravda, Mossad assassinations, their use of political assassination, there being Mossad, as a central tool of their statecraft, even recalls the notorious activities of the old man of the mountains of the 13th century Middle East, whose deadly techniques gave us the very word assassin. So he's basically saying that the word assassin itself was like originally tied to Israeli statecraft. I guess not Israeli, but Jewish statecraft. Speculation of a Mossad conspiracy went into overdrive with a report published on September 15th by Max Blumenthal. And that's not to say there wasn't already speculation. I mean, pretty much the day this happened, immediately people were like, it was Mossad. And that's where I was like holding off, because it was way too early to know. So people just automatically said it was Mossad because there was all these videos of Kirk kind of shifting his position on Israel, which there's some legitimacy to that. So Max Blumenthal received intel from a Trump insider and longtime friend of Kirk, suggesting the assassinated conservative leader's turning point on Israeli influence provoked a private backlash from Netanyahu's allies that left him angry and afraid. He began to discuss Epstein as an Israeli intelligence asset and the Israeli government's involvement in the October 7th attacks, and platformed prominent anti-Zionists like Dave Smith and Tucker Carlson. That's another really important thing to note, is that given that he had such a massive platform for the American conservative movement, he had the biggest platform, aside from probably Trump. He started to platform all of these otherwise not nearly as dangerous voices, like essentially just podcasters, which Kirk was also that, but he was much more than just a podcaster because of his reach on the generation.
Voltru donated $5 through Super Chat. Hello, Anthony. What's the top donation so far?
It's you. Thank you, Volturo. Welcome, my man. Yeah, you're the top pay piggy now with the $5. Thank you, dude. So yeah, I mean, it's like there's all this stuff about how he was platforming all these huge anti-Zionists that are like prominently known for that at this point, Dave Smith especially, and Tucker Carlson. So like Tucker Carlson was kind of like within, he's I would say like kind of within his own echo chamber, because he's really only just publishing on like social media and on YouTube and stuff. I mean, he's not really that influential where he's got this whole generation, right? Like again, how Kirk does. So by him bringing these guys into his platform was a huge threat. And so with anything that involves like an Israeli assassination, the question you need to ask is, how does this benefit Israel for it to even be plausible for us to consider? And so that's the question. How does this benefit Israel by assassinating Charlie Kirk? Well, right there, that's at least one thing right there, is that, again, you have the voice of a the conservative voice of a generation now taking a anti-Zionist stance and platforming very prominent anti-Zionists. So this is the, like, I think if this is the case where this is why this happened, I mean, we all kind of know this already, but this anti-Zionist discourse, I think that just proved that this is the most dangerous thing you can be talking about. So again, it's like I feel for Charlie Kirk, because it's almost like he just started to shift his position too late. Even though he was young, he was still only 31. That's a very untimely death. That's very young to have your life taken. And so that's just setting the precedence. It's like, this is how dangerous this is. You cannot run on a political platform that's anti-Zionist. You certainly can't do that. And you especially can't already have a massive platform and then and be supporting Zionism, and that's why you grow so much, and then betray the Zionist movement. So, like, they will kill you. That's just the fact. They'll kill you for doing that. An unverified report from Candace Owens, which has also sparked a lot of debate online, claims that Kirk also turned down Netanyahu's all-expense-paid trip to Israel, along with a $150 million in cash from TPUSA, or for TPUSA, to adopt an even more an ardently pro-Israel stance. In other words, Charlie Kirk was starting to bite the hand that fed him. So, and then this, we'll just read this quote from Jonathan Greenblatt, and then I'll go to some videos here. With Kirk having tremendous influence and growth of his movement among American youth, questioning Israel's involvement with U.S. politics would make Kirk the most dangerous anti-Zionist in America. Consider how this aligns with the concerns expressed by ADL President Jonathan Greenblatt. I think we all know Jonathan Greenblatt. So he says here, and this was, I think, last year. So this is escalated even more since this quote. He's saying, here in the U.S., the percentage of Americans with significant or elevated anti-Semitic attitudes jumped last year to 24%, more than double the 2019 figure, and the highest level we've seen since 1964. Now, I don't know how you even get that data, because like how do you measure anti-Semitism, especially when it's being measured by the ADL? So, but I guess, whatever their marker is, if they're relatively consistent with it, you just would have to take that as what's going on. I mean, I think we can all see that that's what's going on, despite the ADL trying to present data, like substantiate some numbers with it. I think we all can see that there's a rise in noticing, right? And for the time since we started doing these analyses, the younger generation is now notably more anti-Semitic than the older generation. Yeah, that's true. Like, look, just go on Instagram. I was shocked when I went back on Instagram. I hadn't been on there in a long time. And I went back on Instagram. I was like, oh my gosh, I would have never thought this was happening on Instagram. So this is what's happening on every platform now, to a degree on YouTube as well, where it's become so widespread. There's so many people talking about it that it's like almost impossible to control now. So it basically got completely out of control. So, yeah. So,
Voltru donated $10 through Super Chat. The more taxes you pay, the less anti-Semitic you are.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, well, That's true because I would actually argue the more taxes you pay, the more. Yeah, no, you're right. I got that mixed up. I see what you're saying because you're not funding the genocide. Yeah, true. Very true. So a good reason to donate there because donations are write-offs. Make sure you write off your donations. And actually, I just saw something recently where Trump is pushing for some kind of it might be in place now. I don't know. Some kind of like policy for content creators that they can write off income from donations. So if you want to, express anti-Semitism on the stream, that's the most powerful way to do it because you can write off those donations and you don't get taxed on them, so you don't fund the genocide in Israel. There you go. Good thinking, Volturo. So unsurprised. So this is again Jonathan Greenblatt. He's saying, the current generation is much more anti-Semitic than the previous generation. We all know that. Again, without even reading this, we can sense that. Unsurprisingly, the number of anti-Jewish incidents in the U.S. has reached record levels in 4 of the past 5 years, and in the 12 months after October 7th, there were more than 10,000 anti-Semitic incidents in America. Again, I don't even know what that means. What's an anti-Semitic incident? Like this stream is probably an anti-Semitic incident. I don't even know how you measure that. That's the highest number ADL has ever recorded in any single 12-month period since we started tracking such data in the 1970s. Or again, on college campuses, more than 83% of Jewish students have witnessed or experienced anti-Semitism since October 7th. Okay, so I mean, on college campuses, that's like the anti-Semit. Excuse me. Wow, just burped mid-sentence. That's some of my. That was pretty gross. That's some of my tacos. So I would imagine this is talking about just like pro-Palestinian, and these college Jews are just kvetching over people being pro-Palestine. So that's just not even really anti-Semitism. Blumenthal notes that in one of his final interviews with Ben Shapiro. Okay, we're going to watch this actually. So let me pull up this interview because I'm just quoting the video here, so we might as well watch it.
Jonathan Kelly donated $5 through Super Chat. Single-handedly responsible for 6 million anti-Semitic incidents.
Oy vey. How dare you? Thank you, Jonathan. I appreciate that, man. Okay, let me pull up this video. Some of this stuff I'm going to have to like search, but I think it'll be relatively easy to find. Okay, here it is. Oh, wait, that's not. It's not long enough. Where's this clip? Okay, let me just share the screen. See if we can find this. I think this is it.
On lockdown. Charlie, we've pushed back against the media on COVID, on lockdowns, on Ukraine, on the border, so like maybe we should also ask a question. Is the media totally presenting the truth when it comes to Israel? Just a question, that maybe we shouldn't.
The eyebrow raise. A face that speaks 6 million words. Wow. What is going on through Ben's head? You can almost see the yarmulke blowing off his head with that. And it wasn't even, again, all Charlie's saying is like, is it so bad to ask some questions here, Yo, Nova, what's up, man? Let's go.
Black Flame Nova just donated a $50 gem. Long time no chat, hope all is well. When I was in Japan, me and my cousin witnessed a pro-Palestine protest outside our hotel. I was bewildered it has that far reach.
Yeah, man, it's all over the country. That's crazy though. But yo, thank you for the $50 gem. I think you just usurped Volturo on the top as the top pay piggy. So congrats. Good to see you, man. I'm glad you got to catch a stream. I know you've been saying it's been hard for you to tune in, so glad to have you here. Yeah, in Japan, yeah, that's. I mean, it's all over the world. I mean, that's kind of like if you go in any other country, they're mostly pro-Palestine on this, on this dispute.
Voltru donated $10 through Super Chat. An example of an anti-Semitic act is gluing a penny to the ground.
Yeah, that's true. Or clipping the edges, right? What if you shaved the edges off the coin? Actually, it's funny because the money itself, the coins themselves are kind of anti-Semitic because that's why they put ridges on the coins so that it hasn't been debased and shaved off on the edges. That was literally why they put ridges on the sides of coins. So even just that is anti-Semitic. So yeah, if you put some glue on it and stick it to the ground, that's insult to injury. Yeah, look at that face though.
Israel, just a question, that maybe we shouldn't believe everything the media says, because I know
Ben is seething. So like literally all Charlie's saying is like, I'm just asking and like the thing is, Jews are used to this. Like they've been hearing us say this for a long time. This is literally anti-Semitism to say I'm just asking questions. They all know that that's like a trope. That's like a dog whistle, right? Say like, oh, I'm just asking questions. You're not allowed to ask those questions. I'm sorry. You're not allowed to. So poor Charlie probably doesn't even know that. And he's just naturally saying like, look, all I'm doing is asking questions now. Okay. And this is actually incredibly bold and brave for him to be doing this in front of Ben Shapiro. He's not on Ben Shapiro's show, but, for him to be saying that in front of Ben Shapiro, like that takes some balls. I'm sorry. I haven't really seen other conservative voices even go to that extent with Ben Shapiro. So again, it's like, people weren't really seeing this when they thought of Charlie Kirk. This was kind of happening like these are just clips now that are just becoming viral because it's adding context now. But you can see that this was recent. Like you can see that he has this change of heart.
Been conditioned to ask a lot more critical questions over the last couple of years. So Ben, some people would accuse Israel of wanting to ethnically cleanse. Some people in the Israeli government are saying, again, it's all over the place, right? You have opinions all over. In your opinion, what would a good outcome 5 years?
Voltru donated $10 through Super Chat. Ben has a little smirk on his face. The goblin smirk.
Yeah. Thank you, Volturo. Yeah. There is, I remember seeing this chart. It's like a small hat physiognomy chart that distinguishes between the different types of Ashkenazi physiognomy. And one of them is literally the goblin. I think I'm trying to remember what an example of that is. Like maybe, if I'm not mistaken, then one's the troll. I think the troll is like Larry King. Or he might be the goblin. I don't remember. But yeah, I think probably Ben would be in that category. But the examples were like much uglier kind of faces,
From now be, and how does one respond to the claims of ethnic cleansing? Charlie, we push back against the media on COVID.
So yeah, you can see that these ideas were starting to sprout. He's been hearing this stuff. And so another important thing to take note of here is the amount of pressure on all of these conservative platforms now, whether they're podcasts.
Voltru donated $10 through Super Chat. Fuentes pointed out that Ben's hat got bigger little by little.
Yeah, his hat's getting bigger. Yeah, well, Fuentes is under fire too now. Of all the things for the Groypers to turn their backs on Fuentes, and I'm not saying this is happening like on a large scale, but I'm seeing a lot of Groypers starting to counter-signal Fuentes because he's really holding off on talking about Israel. He's, saying that basically kind of what I was saying at first, like, oh, we don't really have a smoking gun that connects this to Israel. Now, my personal take is Nick is shook, understandably, because he was almost assassinated too. Don't forget that last year, or I think maybe even earlier this year. Yeah, it was earlier this year. He literally, an assassin was on his doorstep. And now he just saw this happen. And think about how much more radical Nick is than Charlie Kirk. It's not even, you can't even compare it, right? As far as like on the JQ and stuff. So I would imagine he's shook. And if you think about, if you're in his position, like he just had an editorial in the New York Times, right? So like he's getting, and he's all over Instagram now and TikTok. Like he's mass viral on all the short form platforms now. So he's being plastered everywhere, and people are sharing his clips. Like he's adding to like the fuel to this fire. And now he just saw what happened to Kirk. So like, imagine if you suspect it is Israel, and you're known, you're out there, your address is out there. People know who you are. They know your name, your face, like where you live. Like I would imagine he's pretty shook. So that could be what's going on. But I think it's going to be harder for, like, again, like he's kind of stuck in the other way that Charlie Kirk got stuck. For Kirk, it was too late to switch to this anti-Zionist position, unfortunately. And for Nick, now it's like, you know, if he pivots back on being like soft on on Israel's involvement with this, he's gonna lose a lot of his audience, possibly. I don't know. Maybe they'll be fine. I don't know. But yeah, you know what? Another thing Kirk was facing is what a lot of these conservative influencers are facing, where it's unavoidable. The JQ, the Zionist problem, like this is all unavoidable now, and people know that if you are avoiding it, that you are purposely avoiding it, and then just by not talking about it at all, you're an Israeli shill, right? So there's tremendous pressure on all of these conservatives to talk about this problem. And if you do talk about it and you're very pro-Israeli, it's like you are also a shill. So you're just more obviously a shill, right? So this is what was going on. This is the context. Again, this is like kind of, you can see all this pressure was on him. He was probably just starting down this path, but you can't even ask these questions. You can't ask these questions, especially to Shapiro. And now, funny enough, well, it's not funny, but there was that video like a day after Charlie was killed. Ben's like all fired up, and he's talking about how we're gonna take over his bloody microphone. Like, who's we, bro? That you talking about you? So like Ben's gonna go on campus now. I guess he's gonna be the new Charlie Kirk. I would assume he's gonna be safe. No one's gonna assassinate Ben Shapiro. So, all right, I'm just catching up on chat. He's nearly a household name now. Yeah. Fuentes, you mean, I guess? Yeah. Fuentes wants the money. Well, I mean, I don't think he's being funded by, I don't have any reason to believe he's being like funded by, definitely not by Israelis or anything. His funding's from his audience, right? So it's like, yeah, he's in a tough spot. If he really sticks to this, like he's in a tough spot, like, cause he could really, his audience could turn on him on this. We're seeing it happen already. Of course, like, it's not really like to a point where he's probably like nervous about it, but I mean, I'm seeing every day like Reuters like counter signaling him. So I've never seen that happen before on anything Nick's done. They'll die for Nick Fuentes, but this issue for some reason is like, this is the most important thing to them. Not for some reason, we know why. They're justified for this being very, the prime importance. Like that resonates with, I can actually relate to Groypers on that. Israel has a pretty horrible reputation of committing acts of terror in the U.S., so the assumptions of their involvement will continue until proven otherwise. Now, Blumenthal's report is under fire for its lack of evidence as we speak, even by many prominent voices on the right who have a strong track record. So basically talking about like the Fuentes types here. although the FBI has also thus far provided contradictory and highly questionable information in their ongoing investigation. However, we are here to dive deeper under the surface of the FBI investigation, where we find what appears to be a dark ritual sacrifice in a series of demonic synchronicities. So now this is where I get into like more of the stuff that we covered in the last stream. All of this occult stuff that's going on behind the scenes that no one's talking about. So for example, Kash Patel, some of you may have seen this.
Myself and Deputy Director Bongino arrived on the scene at approximately 5:30 p.m. on 9/11.
Now, before I'm pausing this 5 seconds in already, but notice how he said on 9/11. Okay, so this happened on 9/11, and he didn't say September 11th. He said 9/11. That's like this kind of it's probably subliminal. I'm not saying he's intentionally said 9/11, but you know, if you tuned into the last stream, you remember how 9/11, the number itself was like kind of alchemically transmutated into like this number that represents terror. And it used to represent, like prior to September 11th, it represented a call for help, like help is on the way. Like almost like relief, right? Oh, there's relief. We called 911, help is on the way. And then after that dark ritual on September 11th, 2001, it was transformed into a number that now subliminally represents terror. When you hear 9/11, you think of that ritual. You think of that mass terror event that occurred. So here he is saying saying 9/11 and not on September 11th, on any other date. Like, think about this, right? In this kind of like official press conference. And when you're saying any date, you're going to say like October 5th or June 21st. You're not going to say on 6/21 we launched our investigation. So that's just like kind of part of this, right?
The governor led a press conference last night at approximately 8 p.m. where at my direction the FBI released a never-before-seen video of the suspect. We also released new images to the public of the suspect.
This guy's such a retard.
And just last night, the suspect was taken into custody at 10 p.m. local time. In less than 36 hours, 33 to be precise.
Okay, what? Why would you say in less than 36 hours, 33 to be precise, instead of just 33 hours? Well, we know that 33, we know what 33 means.
Thanks to the full weight of the federal Utah governor's historic time.
So, and then by the way, when this guy in the background, when he speaks, he also says 33 hours, and he turns to Kash Patel after he says that. I don't have the clip, but he says it again, 33 hours. I think I explain it here. I'm sure I don't need to explain this to you guys, but he emphasizes 33. In case that needs further elaboration, the number 33 is highly significant in Scottish Rite Freemasonry, where the 33rd degree is regarded as the master number representing the highest honorary recognition for service and knowledge within the organization. It also serves as a Masonic code among the cryptocracy to indicate that an occult ritual is taking place on the world stage, or that there's just some kind of psychodrama happening, right? Like some kind of like Masonic psychodrama. Behind Patel hung a flag of Utah, which happens to be a symbol that maintains a position in the Master Mason degree, yet it receives little attention in the whole of Masonic ritual, which is the beehive. So I got that from here, and you can see where this comes from, just so you know. This is from Freemason.com. It doesn't get more official than that. So I didn't get that from some like schizo source or something. Like they're telling you what this is on the Freemasonry website. So the average normie is going to look at that. Like if that even, first of all, no one's going to even notice that. The normie doesn't even take note of that whatsoever, that there's a flag in the background with a beehive, right? And if they do know that that flag is the flag of Utah, there's still nothing to even like notice at all, right? It's just like, oh, that's the flag of Utah. They're in Utah. Nothing suspicious there. But it happens to be the beehive. So this is just, what I would say is an example of this kind of dark synchronicity. I'm not saying that this was like plotted out and everything. Like, who knows? I mean, we're not in the business of trying to figure out how that kind of stuff happens. There's spiritual forces at work here, right? So that's where you can really get lost and get really sucked into like the schizo abyss of like trying to figure that out. Like, you're not going to be able to, so don't even bother. But that's what that's from. So let me go back up here. The mass media, and this is from another article talking about this being a mass ritual. He says the mass-mediated demise of Charlie Kirk had all the earmarks of spectacular politicized ritual violence, ritual sacrifice. Experts in the construction and maintenance of public myths, which is how Jewish Zionist 9/11 Tsar Philip Zelikow memorably described himself, know that literary anthropologist Rene Girard was onto something. Most human beings are motivated by myths, sacred stories, not by facts. And one of the most powerful catalysts for myth making and myth maintaining is ritual sacrifice. That's why Zelikow and co. scripted 9/11 as a spectacular ritual sacrifice of thousands of Americans designated to consecrate in blood a sacred bond between Americans and Israelis, and triggered the murder of millions whom Zionist Jews view their enemies. Again, that's why the actual shedding of blood is key. So like those people who are like, oh, he's really alive, it's all Masonic theater, and they're just in a play, and Charlie Kirk's an actor, and he's really alive somewhere. He's on a beach in Tel Aviv somewhere, like hanging out. It's like that. Do you understand how much mental gymnastics that takes to like maintain that kind of theory? Like, you're doing too much, and you don't have to. You can just admit that the shedding of blood is necessary. It's a necessary precondition for these dark occultists. Like, you're just psyoping yourself into utter retardation by holding that kind of view. So yeah, I don't want to get too far. I think you can check out this article. I do have this part paywalled. I tend to paywall the like really spicy stuff. So, again, a reason to become a paid supporter, because you actually get value in return. You get to unlock the entire archive of my work on Substack. So there's a lot of stuff that I have, a lot of really spicy stuff that's behind the paywalls on all my articles, not on all my articles, but on many of my articles. So that's, $9 a month. I think that's a pretty good deal. And you get access to our book club, private Discord channels. You get to have, private Q&As with me and stuff like that. So I try to give back as much as I can for your support, and that's again only $9. So yeah, you can see a little preview here of what we're getting into. So I talk about some of the other events that are surrounding this and that were leading up to it. One thing I will mention. Okay, I'll mention this here, and then we'll move on. This is important to note. Most people didn't even know this. I didn't even know this until I started researching this. So I'm talking about Ernya's murder, this girl that was on the bus. Ernya's murder halted the dominant discourse surrounding the problem of transgender mass shootings in another event in a chain of terror, the shooting at Annunciation Catholic School, which took place on August 27th, not even a month ago. Okay, so that's one thing. And then I'm saying here, okay, this is what I wanted to read. At the same time, the blood from Charlie's neck covered the Edom half of the word freedom on his white shirt, which is true. I even unfortunately had to watch the video again, the close-up, to verify that the blood only covered those letters, EDOM. Again, I'm not insinuating that was like even possible to plan out ahead of time. That would be ridiculous, but just interesting possible synchronicity there. A 16-year-old boy named, so this is while that was happening, Kirk was being assassinated, and simultaneously, this 16-year-old boy in Colorado named Desmond Hawley was carrying out this satanic occult influence mass shooting at Evergreen High School in Colorado. Did you guys know that, chat? Did you know that that happened? Did anyone hear any news stories about that? The Evergreen shooting was completely overshadowed by Kirk's assassination and was only brought to light days later by the ADL, of course, framed as a white supremacist neo-Nazi attack to distract the public outcry in the wake of Kirk's assassination. I get to go to an EO wedding in Reno soon. Congrats, Orthodox boomer grandma. That's probably the only justifiable reason I would ever go to Reno. That's certainly a fantastic excuse to go there. Unless you live there. If you live there, it's a different story. But all I know about Nevada, the cities in Nevada, is it's just like it's known for, you know, gambling, degeneracy, and stuff. I'd still like to go to Nevada one day. Maybe just drive through it or something. Hopefully, if I'm there, it's like I'm driving through Nevada to get to Arizona to visit St. Anthony's Monastery, that's next on the list. I'm going to be visiting Platina soon to venerate Father Seraphim Rose. So this happened too. And then, you know, I go into a little bit on this kid, Holly, who basically was like worshiping all of these mass shooters, the Columbine guys, some of the other like more recent trans shooters and stuff. And he was involved, he left a huge digital footprint. He was involved in like the true crime community. He was involved in the Order of Nine Angels, O9A as it's called, which is a satanic accelerationist cult. I believe they're Crowleyan. So this was carried out. It says here that O9A cultists aim to increase the amount of evil energy in the human realm through rituals and transgressive acts, with the goal of invoking dark gods who will overthrow the current Christian world order and plunge the world into a new aeon of evil and chaos. So this was happening while Kirk was assassinated. Like it wasn't like shortly after, it was like at the same exact time that this actual satanic ritual, as this kid saw it, at least. I know he's like a teenager, but he was influenced by this satanic cult, and that's their goal, is through accelerating the amount of evil in the world by just inflicting chaos and violence. He was also, this is interesting, and then I'll move on from this. This is interesting here. The ADL reported that a few days before the shooting, the teen posted pictures on TikTok of himself wearing a black T-shirt with "Wrath" written across the chest in red paint. An interesting contrast to Kirk's white shirt with "Freedom" written across the chest in black. So maybe nothing, but maybe something. Not really. I try to not like draw conclusions. I'm just saying like, hey, this is it's just interesting contrast. That's all I'm saying. So let's go back to the timeline here, and I'll look at some of the bookmarks that I've saved. And this is gonna get a little chaotic just because it's not really, and nothing's really in any particular order. So yeah, Lord have mercy indeed. I know. Really dark stuff. I mean, look, I know this stuff is really dark, but this is what's in the news now. Not even now. I mean, this kind of stuff has been in the news, satanic rituals and stuff that are involved in these like murders. It's just like, yeah, look, this is the real evil that's in our world. It doesn't have any power over us. Like we are under the grace of Christ. I mean, we are under the protection of Christ. Many will be martyred and things will get worse, but, the worst that could happen, you can't kill a Christian. Christians don't die. So the worst thing that could happen to us is death, and that unites us to Christ. So how that's literally like nothing could happen to us that won't unite us to Christ. Okay, so let's start here. Again, not any. I guess the order here is actually just linear. So this is just as I discovered things. You can see this was on September 15th. Actually, there isn't really an order. Let's play this first because this has something to do with what I was just talking about with this ritual.
Israel could do it this secretly, fast cancer, right? We have the technology to do this. So Israel could do it this secretly, and no one would talk about it. And in 20 years' time, 30 years' time, the population of Gaza would all be gone. It would be a very secret, right? Instead, they choose to do this in front of the world. And my argument to you is that this is intentional. They want the world to hate them. Because by doing this, they create the ultimate taboo, right? We find this disgusting and contemptuous, so the entire world will unite against Israel. But guess what? That's what their religion wants. In the extreme form of Jewish eschatology, or the religion, they believe that at the end of the world, Israel will fight the entire world, and God will help Israel triumph in the end. So what's really happening in Gaza is that there are extremists within the Israel government who want to accelerate the process of the end of the world, where Israel will face the world. And if you think about it, the entire idea of this ritual sacrifice is to unite the Israeli population. And what's extremely disturbing and horrifying about it is that this works. Why? Well, let's use an analogy, okay? The analogy is this. In Chinese history, the most popular military stratagem is to fight with a river behind your back. You guys have heard of this strategy, right? Where, okay, an army is losing, okay? It's being scattered by the enemy. So what the general does is forces the army to retreat to a river. And now with a river blocking your escape, you have a choice. You can either drown in the river or you can fight to the death. And most soldiers will choose to fight to the death. And so at this point, the soldiers are unified, they're galvanized, they're energized, and then they find a surge of energy to go and destroy their enemy. Okay, this is the most popular military stratagem in ancient Chinese history, and guess what? It's the same as Israel doing this right now in Gaza. It's the same logic.
Yeah, most based Asian, yeah, just dropping truth nukes. So they think they're closer to, so again, just think about what I was just talking about with that literal satanic cult. And this is not even just pertaining to the Order of Nine Angels. Like, this is just a theme throughout all these satanic cults and religions and stuff, is that there's this element of acceleration. And the idea is that, they could bring about the conditions for the end of the world, whatever they think that is. Obviously, there's different eschatologies. And the point is that this is the satanic inversion of the waiting, the patience that we're required to live and suffer in our Christian life and wait for the return of Christ, which we don't know when will happen. So this is inverting that to say that man can bring about the conditions of the end of the world, of the eschaton. And so, oddly enough, that's a prominent theme in Jewish eschatology. You can probably imagine why. They have the same God, right? So yeah, I mean, that is very prominent. I've noticed that from my studies that's basically how that crept into evangelical eschatology, was from all the Jewish influence in primarily in the 17th century in England with the Puritans. They brought that to America. That kind of immanentizing of the eschaton. So, okay, we already know this. This isn't, again, these are just bookmarks. So a lot of this stuff is already, we know this stuff. More just TikTok conspiracy slop, I guess. Now, this one was pretty interesting. This is a Jewish Israeli intelligence officer who confirmed that Netanyahu is blackmailing President Trump.
Is one of their. I believe that the American government is sort of trapped by.
I'll just comment on that real quick. So Darby and Schofield, those guys came along much later than what I'm talking about. So that was already there. And basically, Darby kind of systematized dispensationalism. It was further systematized by Charles Taser, who I did that's actually my most viewed video on YouTube. I did a live stream on him. And he's the unknown godfather of Christian Zionism and also the founder of the Jehovah's Witnesses, the Watchtower Society. So he further systematized it, and then that was before even Schofield. And then Schofield came along. And by the way, Charles Taze Russell, he was the best-selling independent publisher in America, and it was all Zionist propaganda at the time in the early 19th or the early 20th century. I think late 19th, early 20th century. This was at the turn of the 20th century. So most people don't even know who that is, but kind of the unknown hidden godfather of Christian Zionism, as I call him. And then Schofield was kind of like, the Schofield Bible was kind of the nail in the coffin because it was still not as popular in America, the support for an Israeli homeland or a Jewish homeland. And so, because they already had, they were on the verge of signing the Balfour Declaration in Britain, right? So it's like Britain it was already a Zionist stronghold, and they needed to capture America. So that's where the Schofield Bible was so monumental in putting, sealing the deal, as you could probably say, sealing the deal for American support of a Jewish homeland in Israel, or in Palestine rather. The pyramid grave. Yeah. Yeah. The pyramid grave goes crazy.
The Israelis. Jeffrey Epstein is one of their tools to trap them.
And what do you think of Dershowitz's denial?
Hold on a second. I want to give you an example. Bill Clinton, President Bill Clinton, Ehud Barak met Arafat in the 90s, and there was no deal. The reason was Epstein. They were being blackmailed by Epstein. Ehud Barak was also a friend of Epstein, the prime minister of Israel at the time. But he was being blackmailed by the Israeli right wing as well. And they stopped an agreement with Arafat. They were about to reach an agreement there for a two-state solution, but that was stopped.
Patristic Faith Raid, let's go. Welcome on in, friends from Patristic Faith. Father Deacon Ananias. Thank you for the raid, if that's what's going on here. I appreciate that. So I guess what you just walked in on is this. This is a. I'll just read this here so you understand what we're looking at. This is a Jewish Israeli intelligence officer who confirmed that Netanyahu was blackmailing President Trump. So we're just kind of like going through some of the trying to filter a lot of this slop on the timeline to get a grip on what's going on here. So yeah, welcome on in if you're joining us. Appreciate you guys being here. Lots of Freemasons among the Millerites also. Yeah. It was all connected to Freemasonry. The Charles Taze Russell himself was obviously a Freemason. He was literally buried in a pyramid gravestone And yeah, the Millerites were connected to Freemasonry. Was it Charles Miller? I forget the guy's name. Miller himself was a Freemason as well. Yeah, I mean, it's like pretty much safe to assume like all those guys were involved in some kind of secret society back then. But yeah, so I did. You can watch. I did a whole stream on that. It's literally by far my most viewed video on YouTube, which I was kind of surprised by. But there's apparently a big demand for content about Jehovah's Witness cult. So if any YouTubers tuned in here, I mean, and you cover this kind of stuff, huge opportunity there, because people are really hungry for that kind of thing. There's really not that much content on it specifically, especially with like the history, the formation of the Watchtower Society. So I guess people are really interested in that. And it was just kind of like a footnote in the research I'd been doing. So I realized there's probably more there than I noticed. But yeah, you can go and watch that if you're interested. I think it's about 2 hours or so. Kind of just like an explorer, like a live exploration. You know, I didn't really have like a formal presentation on it or anything.
Because of Epstein. They were both being blackmailed by Epstein.
And so Jeffrey Epstein, in a way, presumably being used as a tool by the Israelis, helped to change the course of history in this region I'm speaking to you from.
Of course, a change thing. And they trapped a number of U.S. presidents by using Jeffrey Epstein. And it wasn't only about sex, it was also the money issue. Where was the money coming from? But everything is stuck over Gaza. And I believe the Israelis have the American government captive due to what happens with Epstein, or what happened in the past.
This guy's
with
going to get
Epstein.
whacked.
Rupert Murdoch, newspaper, Wall Street Journal, put out that card or something, a birthday card Trump sent to Epstein. Where do you think they got it from? And I don't think Trump wants to continue this war or the genocide. I think it's the Israelis holding him back.
Given how much maverick power he has to create peace in South North Korea, in Palestine, in all these different places, one might ask, why do they need Jeffrey Epstein? Why can't they just assassinate Donald Trump? I know there's a lot of speculation. There has been that John F. Kennedy was assassinated with Israeli intelligence help. Why do they need things like Jeffrey Epstein?
Don't you wish that this was, I don't know where this is, but I don't know what news network this is. Can you imagine if this was on TV in America? They're just casually mentioning the Israeli involvement in the JFK assassination. Like, what TV, what network is this?
Somebody tried to assassinate him, didn't they? Before the election. It doesn't always work.
Oh man, that's crazy.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, but this time it worked, and it just happened to be some deranged furry who was just recently radicalized, and he did it with the precision that this guy who shot the most high profile figure on the planet couldn't do. But he had the ability to do this like completely MK Ultra, Trantifa furry was able to pull it off. And people are like, talking about how, oh, it's not that hard of a shot. It was only 200 yards. Okay, bro. Yeah. Have you ever done that though? Like, no one's ever done that. I don't care how good of a shooter you are. There's a lot of mental, psychological things involved with that. You have to get the shot right. You have to do it. Like you can't get in a situation where like you missed a shot and then you have to get out of there or whatever. It's like there's a lot of stuff that unimaginable factors that play into that. It's not just like shooting at a target from 200 yards away at a range. There's immense pressure. I mean, it's like you better make sure if you're gonna take a shot like that, you better make sure you're gonna hit your target. So that's just like crazy that this is the guy they caught. It was like some 22-year-old kid who was just like some wholesome Chungus gamer that was like recently radicalized in a Discord server. And we're gonna look at the text messages, by the way. If you guys haven't seen them, they're like hilariously fake. It's so funny and obvious. It's like probably one of the fakest things I've ever seen. So let's get this guy played out here.
Sure, what's going to happen, because people look at these pictures of starving children all over the world, and there's a lot of pressure on these politicians to say enough, to tell them enough is enough. I'm not sure how far this will go, and I think the Israelis are committing harakiri on themselves, or by doing this, because eventually they will be stopped.
Now, that is where the GCC countries arguably can leverage financial power to replace AIPAC lobbying power, as it were. Do you believe that Trump can begin to leverage some of that Arab world, global South, BRICS world power to be able to end the genocide?
No, I believe that he can end the genocide right now if he just stops being scared of the Israelis. What are they going to say about him? How many girls did he abuse? How many billions of dollars he took?
That's so true. That's all it takes, man. That's why everyone's like released the Epstein, like they know what's at stake. That's why that's like the most important thing that Trump could be doing.
Say whatever they say. He should stop the genocide. Let them do whatever they want to do. Morality should take over.
Oh, it's RT. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. Oh, but it's propaganda though. It's Sputnik propaganda or whatever. Okay. Yeah. Well, this is like so incredibly base that they just casually reference Israeli involvement in JFK assassination, because we all know that that's what happened. Notice how they didn't even have to explain that. He didn't have to substantiate that. It's just like known outside of America, I guess. Like at least in Russia or whoever's tuning into RT has like a much higher IQ.
Encourage him to stop the genocide at any price.
Robert Maxwell was an incredibly intelligent man. He was trying to leverage things against the Israeli state, perhaps financial deals for his company. Look what happened to him. Can't the Israelis every time tell Trump, you try and mess with us? Someone as clever, and people can look up Robert Maxwell's heroic wartime record, they can still kill you.
I can't comment about that, but I hope Donald Trump will have the interest of the United States and the Middle East at heart and do the right thing.
The guy's kind of a weird guy, but one of the based members of the tribe, I suppose, for going there. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna want to play this. This was weird. This was just really weird. I think you guys know what this video is. This was just very bizarre. So this played into these like these really dumb theories that like, oh, he's not really dead. You know, they saw this and it was like, oh, what's that? His hands are wax. It's like, dude, the guy was drained of his blood. It's just a weird like moment to post publicly. It's like very deeply personal. But who knows what's, you know, what a grieving wife is going through. I don't know. I'm not going to make any judgments on that. It's just, it was definitely a little bizarre, but I didn't really deduce anything from that. Yeah, I mean, here we see, you know, you guys are, someone who was saying earlier, was that Nova talking about the pro-Israeli or the pro-Palestine rallies in Japan? Well, here, look at this here. This is in South Korea. How do they even know Charlie Kirk in South Korea? That's wild. That's just wild. So here, this was pretty interesting here. This was a Chief Rabbi Yosef of Israel sent a condolence letter to Charlie Kirk's family, praising him as a true friend of the Jewish people, condemning his murder as vile and cruel. And I guess this was why this was going around, because it was dated on September 2nd, but they found that that was someone just messed with it. Because here's the original, which says September 19th. But I think the point here is like, why are, I mean, I don't know. Again, I wouldn't like suppose too much from that. I certainly think the more Netanyahu's talking, like saying that Israel didn't do it, the more it's looking like Israel did it. As far as like, you know, a chief rabbi, it's like, well, you know, Kirk did really support Israel, but it's a little weird. I think it's a little odd that you're seeing all of this, like, kind of, oh, look, you know, we loved him so much. Like, it definitely wasn't us. I guess maybe it would be better to not say anything. I don't know. Like, no one was like waiting for Chief Rabbi David Yosef to like write a letter of condolence. You know, it's like, why did he do that?
The person.
This is 23 minutes. I'm not going to play this whole thing.
If debate dies, when open conversation gets replaced with suppression or intimidation.
That's just kind of like a normie conservative take, I guess. And
ultimately violence. And these aren't like...
I don't remember why I bookmarked that one. Here you go, a little bit more of the ritual aspect here. Just maybe an odd coincidence. I don't know. I mean, that's exactly the menorah. It's 7, what is it, 7 candles? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so you have 4 on this side, 4 on this side. Yep. So it's not even like, oh, it kind of looks like that. It's like, no, that's, you know, maybe that's a coincidence. That would be I think that's a very, like, odd coincidence. I think that would be a very low probability of that being just, like, a pure coincidence. But, like, if it were just 3 sides instead of 4, I'd be like, okay, that's not really. Like, it just kind of looks like it, but it's not. But that's literally the menorah, which is a temple menorah, by the way. That's like a, you know, a temple ritual object. And so now here you have all these, you know, these Israeli shills that are screeching now. Oh, why would Israel kill Charlie? So like, why are they even talking about this? Why are you guys even talking about this if it's so improbable? Why are all the usual suspects coming to bat and, you know, making all these statements that Israel didn't do it? Oh, Orthodox reflections here. Killing Candace or Tucker would not produce a martyr for Israel, which is why Zionists have been on overtime trying to exploit Kirk's death to bolster their failing narrative. Exactly. Regardless of who killed him, the Zionists are shamelessly exploiting him.
Voltru donated $10 through Super Chat. I think Israel is trying to control the population's attention, hence why they are putting Ben Shapiro in place of Kirk.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you, Volturu, for the 10. Appreciate it, man. Yeah, because like, so again, like no one's going to assassinate Ben Shapiro. Like he's good. Like if there's any, so think about this: what non-Zionists, like who probably actually Jewish, like because like these non-Jewish Zionists are much more likely to have a turning point, for lack of better terms, and change their position. They need somebody who's like Ben Shapiro, who's basically, an Israeli. Like you need an actual Israeli to do it, because then they have their citizenship at stake. Like they need something like that for them to be in the clear. Because think about who's going to actually step up and take Kirk's place now, or even attempt to. And I don't think anyone actually can, at least for a while. Like no one probably who's alive right now. But who, or maybe Nick Fuentes actually, but like later on in his life, maybe not anytime like in the near future, but like I can see maybe if things keep going in this direction, Fuentes could become someone of similar influence as Kirk. But think about this, like who after this happened is going to go around campaigning on college campuses now? Or anywhere really in public where there's an open debate and anyone can just show up. It's just an open public event. And you're talking about this stuff like these conservative talking points. This also revealed, by the way, how out of touch the left is with the stances of the far right. Like they think that Charlie Kirk, like the fact that they thought he was a fascist is so absurd that it shows how they have no clue, like because there's no discourse happening. There's no actual discourse happening between the two extremes. They're not doing that. Kirk was trying to do that, but he wasn't like, he wasn't extreme himself. And so that was like the most extreme, like right-wing position that a lot of these college kids were exposed to. So, because they literally were saying that this Trantifa shooter, who allegedly was the gunman that shot Kirk, they were saying that he was a groyper. They actually believed he was a groyper. Even though he inscribed on one of the shell casings, it said, "Hey, fascists, catch this." It's like, that's how out of touch they are. If you've spent any amount of time in like right-wing circles, like we don't call each other fascists. If anything, the groypers would say that Kirk wasn't fascist enough. And actually that's essentially, they were criticizing him. Like they didn't even know any of that. They're just like, oh, well, those are all far right, white supremacists or whatever, whatever they would say. Like they all just lump them in the same thing. Like they don't even realize that the actual far right hated Charlie Kirk. So it's just like a lot was exposed in this event. So I think very much we saw like the kind of the death of this this open dialogue. I think Nick Fuentes actually said something along those lines that like we're done. Like we're done actually having debates with these people. You cannot debate them. They just want you dead. They don't want to debate. They just want you to die. Like they want you to not be alive anymore. So they're not like, I mean, we've seen this for years. How many times do we have to try this? Like the man on the street stuff, going around interviewing these, these mask wearing libcucks. Like, do they ever talk? Do they ever engage in dialogue? Very rarely. And if they do, they just end up, rage quitting and walking away, or just they resort to violence. How much more of that do we have to see to understand that they do not want to have a dialogue with us? They do not want to debate. There is no debating anymore. So in a sense, this the fact that he was wearing a freedom shirt, he was in this, in the middle of a debate, and when he was killed, it's like very symbolic of this, this era coming to an end of this discourse between liberals and conservatives, at least like to some extent. I know that there's still some liberals who are interested in open discourse. Not many of them. It's becoming increasingly rare. But I think that this showed that, you know, that time's over. Maybe I'm wrong. I'd prefer if I was wrong on that, but that's how much more of this experiment do we have to go through to prove that? So, and, you know, and an interesting side note is that what was he in the middle of debating when he was shot? It was the trans violence problem. He was in the middle of a debate over trans mass shooters. So that's why his last words were gang violence. He was like clarifying. He's like, do you mean, you know, gang violence or just all like, you know, individuals or something, like whatever he was trying to get at. He was trying to clarify a statistic, I think. And his last word was violence. So like that's symbolic too. So yeah, there was a lot of symbology going on that I think I didn't really see too many people talking about. Here's the beehive thing that we covered already. This I covered in my article. There's all this, this gets a little bit schizo, but again, you know, you guys know from the last stream that astrology plays a huge role in these mass ritual events. And so this goes through all of that stuff. This guy himself is an occult researcher. I think he's an occultist. So it's like, does that mean he's wrong? I mean, he's just saying what the kind of stuff that we're studying, which is a lot of it is coming from occultists themselves. That's kind of how we know what they believe, right? So it doesn't make it like a real thing that can actualize in reality, but he's at least explaining how the occult understands these lunar cycles and stuff like that. The blood moon he's talking about, how like the September 10th was in the middle of, it was in the exact midpoint of a partial solar eclipse, right? There's blood moons and stuff. So this stuff, like, again, it sounds very schizophrenic. Like if you were to read this as someone who's like, let's say uninitiated into occult beliefs, you would completely disregard this as schizo nonsense, but it actually has great significance to the dark occultist. What is this? Much of the JQ begins with the predetermined conclusion Israel did it, and only evidence begins to be generated. A genuine investigation, by contrast, starts with the evidence itself. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the position I originally held, but I understand where he's coming from. And that's the position I originally held. It's going to be harder to maintain as we see more come out, because with a lot of this stuff, you may not see evidence for a while, or at all. And so you just have to start connecting things how they make sense. That doesn't mean come to a conclusion to the point where you're debating it and stuff, but you can like hold to a side that makes the most sense out of things. Certainly the official narrative is not connecting anything for us. So what are we to do? Like, sorry, you're not going to stop that. I happen to think there's a high likelihood that Israel did it without having any evidence. We can still, again, make these assumptions, make an educated assumption. That's all we're trying to do here, is make an educated guess. Because that's partially true, that we don't have direct evidence. Although, let me pull something up here, and I'll go back down because there's some stuff I'm skipping over now that's really interesting. But while I'm on the topic, if I can find it here, I think it was more recent. Let's see up here. I know it's up here. Nope. Oh, is this account here? This like wine mom conspiracy researcher. I don't know. It's funny that this is where we're at now, that anyone could do this kind of stuff. But she actually, let's see if I can find it. Oh, this person posts a lot. Here it is. Okay, let me make this bigger. Scoop. Last night, I got a tip that I was able to verify with someone inside the admin that the NSA detected 12 Israeli registered cell phones at the site of the shooting last Wednesday. The NSA picked up the data and handed it over to federal law enforcement officials who passed it along to the White House. My source said those in the administration with this info are really freaked out. Okay, so what does this mean? I don't know. I've been getting multiple tips a day for a week, and I've decided to start putting this info out as soon as I can verify any part of it. Everyone knows there's something very wrong going on here, and the public has a right to know what is happening. Are there possible alternative explanations? Yes. Utah Valley University has a Center for National Security Studies program. So this is a fair report because she's like exploring the alternatives here, right? She's not just like putting it out like a clickbait thing. So I actually respect this. So it could be that Utah Valley University has a Center for NSS program that is the largest NS program in the region. It's possible there are Israeli nationals study there. Yeah, possible. There are Israeli nationals associated with one of the 3 synagogues located roughly 30 miles north in Salt Lake City, which includes a Chabad Lubavitch of Utah. And yes, I checked for art schools. There aren't any. Lastly, why give this scoop to me? Trust me, I was thinking the same thing. So, you know, a skeptic would just dismiss this because she's not providing any receipts here. So, but, you know, again, it's like a lot of people are going to be left empty-handed if they're looking for receipts with everything. I mean, I guess time will tell. Maybe this is nothing. But, you know, to assume that you're going to get receipts with a lot of stuff is like, okay, you can take a more academic approach like that. But even when receipts are provided, people are going to deny it. So it's like, what do you want? It's like a text exchange, right? Like think about how that works, right? So in this case, if you wanted to verify this as an outsider, let's say she provided the receipts and they're a text exchange. Well, how do you know that she didn't manufacture those texts? How do you know that the person on the other side is really who they say they are? I mean, there's a ton of things you can start questioning if you wanted to be like an ultra skeptic on this stuff. I'm not saying that to just buy into this because of the opposite, but it's like you have to have like a kind of a reasoned approach to this stuff and take things for like, you know, substantiate them with other things going on, right? Like we're trying to figure out the context here. So to go back to that other tweet where it was like, you're going to start with a presupposition and then find stuff to support that. That's true. You don't want to fall in that trap either. But so far, this has been the only thing that makes sense is that Israel's involved because of all the stuff I said earlier. It does make sense to me. So can I prove that with like a smoking gun? No, not yet. And I'm also open to be wrong about that. Like, I'm not even like making a factual statement. I know, again, the title of the stream, it is a little bit of like a joke, but, you know, it's likely I, you know, change my position. It's so early. It's been a week. It's just been a week. I think about a week into 9/11, like we didn't really know much at all. We were still like the whole country was still grieving one week in, even months in. And by the way, so you want to make fun of like a person like this who's like, she looks like some soccer mom or whatever. You know, guess who the first 9/11 conspiracy theorists were? They were the wives of the victims that were in the World Trade Center that knew that the story didn't make any sense and they started questioning it. Like they were the ones that cared the most about finding the truth. It was the wives of the victims. So these soccer moms are, you know, they're at the front lines. We love our soccer mom conspiratards, don't we, folks? So, all right, where am I scrolling here? Let me go back to where we were. Okay, here. Sorry for all the scrolling. I hope that's not giving you a headache. Okay, so we're getting his gaming alias. I don't know that that's important, but again, not all of this stuff is super informative, but 24% of Americans believe Charlie Kirk's shooter, Tyler Robinson, was a Republican compared to 21% think he was a Democrat. Who cares, honestly? Who cares? The whole thing's a psyop. Like, I think actually a big part of this, let's say he's a patsy, which I believe. If you look at, I don't have the photos here. Actually, I can probably find them on my timeline if I scroll down. If you look at some of this kid's photos, here. Look at these photos. This is who they picked for a patsy. This clean-cut Mormon kid, no markings on his, like, there's no indication whatsoever of any kind of political affiliation from this kid. He's a blank canvas. Oh, he's a gamer. Says nothing. That says nothing that he's a gamer. Smiling in his photos. He's not the chud jack, right? He's not a like the prototype chud jack shooter, because he's actually happy. He's like in all these family photos and stuff, right? So like they found this like kind of perfect template that they could just ascribe some kind of worldview or political affiliation with him. This is literally why there's debate going on about which side he's on, because there's no markers of what his political affiliation is. That's all by design. Oh, this was kind of funny.
Lastly, to my friend Charlie Kirk, rest now, brother. We have the watch, and I'll see you in Valhalla.
Valhalla. I posted this. Your average pagan LARPer SAR. Oh, man. One of the very rare uses of I didn't generate this image, but, you know, some AI is can be pretty funny. Okay, here's another thing we didn't cover, but you know, Utah is a hotbed for CIA recruitment. You can see all of these. I think someone in the chat may have been asking about this earlier. I don't remember. Or maybe it was like Mormonism and Masonry, which, yes, there's also a huge connection to. I'll probably dedicate a whole stream to that. But it's also, Mormons are also notably recruited for CIA because they're clean cut, they're family people, they're family oriented. They don't get involved in drugs and stuff. They live this kind of wholesome lifestyle. They're very honest, right? So they serve as great members of the CIA. So this is like an old document from 1981. Mormon missionaries say they are taken for CIA. There was an article written about it. FBI and CIA recruit heavily from the Mormon population because they are usually cheaper to do a security clearance on. They often speak another language from their mission trips, and they usually have low-risk lifestyles. Yeah, there you go. There's like whole articles written on this. There's actually a lot of, that's a whole rabbit hole in itself. That I think I got into this a little bit on, you can listen to the podcast I did with an ex-Mormon who became Orthodox. That's here on YouTube. It's also on my Substack. So let me go back to the bookmarks here. So there's Max Blumenthal. Okay, here's let's read this. This is kind of hilarious. Here's one of the leaked text message exchanges. Oh no, this has got to be fake. Yeah, that's fake. Hello, roommate and lover. It is I, James Tyler James. Okay, yeah, they're memeing it. Got me. Here's some of the latest. I mean, since we're starting at the top here. Again, it's like, I don't even know how much of this is real. What if this is AI? So they're saying that he stopped somewhere to get a burger. There was like security footage of him. I mean, yeah, and then, what's his name did the same. Luigi did the same thing. Remember, that's where he was called in. So I don't know if this is real, but I mean, it looks real. Those were the sunglasses he had. Can't see his shoes. Okay, here's more of the latest. Oh, actually, this is from the 15th. Tyler left his screwdriver on the roof. Tyler reassembled his rifle in the woods. Pick one. Yeah, so this story is just like nonsensical.
Resources the FBI had and surged multiple air assets as soon as this shooting occurred. We were cycling in agents, evidence response technicians, hostage rescue technicians, and special operators in and out of Utah, cycling evidence back and forth on these FBI planes as soon as we could so that there was no delay. And what we did, once I got there, along with the deputy on the ground around 5 p.m. local on September 11th, was walk the entire crime scene, including the foots the suspect himself took. And what we learned was there was evidence, DNA evidence that could be collected and had been collected, including a screwdriver that was found on the rooftop. Also, we went over to the scene in the wooded area where the firearm was discarded. And the firearm had a towel wrapped around it. It's important. I'll get back to that later. I even walked into the wooded area in the ravine, so I knew from my investigative experience what I could bring to the table.
So, and this is kind of crazy too, because he was running. He supposedly had the disassembled rifle concealed with the barrel, like presumably in his pant leg. And here he is running on the roof, and he was limping to the scene, by the way. So when he was walking there, he was like limping, again, presumably because he had the barrel of the gun, of the rifle in his pant leg, and so now he's disassembled it and he's got it with him, and he's running off the roof, and he scales the roof.
And what decisions I needed to make. And having the support of President Trump and the full support of the White House was what we needed for these resources to happen. And I can report today that the DNA hits from the towel that was wrapped around the firearm and the DNA on the screwdriver are positively processed for the suspect in custody.
I just want to know if the rifle was broken down jumping off the roof, and they found reassembled also where the two behind Charlie Kirk while on the stage giving all those hand signals. Yeah, okay. So here you have one of these retards like trying to, assuming that those were hand signals. It was literally just people moving. They're like, you're slow mowing all this footage of people standing around listening to people talk. Like, how people are just moving, bro. That's all it is. Like, you're going to analyze every single person and how they were moving when that happened. It's like, I don't know. That's just so ridiculous that there was hand signals. I don't think anyone needed hand signals for that shot. Like what? Like, they'll never tell you what the hand signals were for. What was it for?
Oh,
they were just hand signals, bro. For what? Do you think an assassin needs to like wait for somebody else to give him some kind of signal to take the shot? I don't know. That doesn't make any sense to me. Maybe I'm missing something there, but yeah, okay. This was a couple days ago. Megyn Kelly talks with Tucker Carlson about the Israel lobby's pressure on Charlie Kirk. There's a layer here of only go one way.
Like, what's best for us and our kids here? How do I keep them safe? That's my number one priority. And I've been just absolutely disgusted and recoiled from people who have tried to pressure me on it. It, of course, never happened. But I know from speaking to Charlie, he felt it too. You've heard it from Charlie that he felt, and there is a layer here of nefarious pressure to have certain narratives go only one way.
Yes.
That must be called out and must be fought.
Well, I should have said in my open that when Charlie was denounced as anti-Semitic and, quote, dangerous by the American Jewish Committee, you were too. That was a press tour. I don't know if you've ever even seen it. And I just remember when I read that at the time thinking, okay, these are like two of the most pro-Israel, basically pro-Israel people like on the internet. I don't understand. So maybe we should have this offline, but let's just have it now. I don't get that. Why would you attack? There are definitely people who hate Israel
Trudeau donated $10
who are not
through super chat. I saw a clip
Thank
where
you, Vulturo.
someone caught a frame where the bullet and muzzle shot were both visible from a window in the building behind him. I have the clips saved. I can send it to you.
Yeah, we could take a look at that. I can just explain it. Thank you for the 10, Vulturo. That was from, so what you're talking about, and actually this was discovered by, to my knowledge, by 4chan Intel. For literally the only time I do go on poll on 4chan is like when there's stuff like this happening, because they're so autistic about doing these investigations that it's almost like you're getting insight to like a real live investigation. Of course, there's still all the poll-tard stuff, but like, some of the threads are pretty interesting like that. And to my knowledge, that's who discovered it. So I saw it on there, and then it caught on Twitter. But what you're talking about is the reflection that was from Frank Turek's phone. So I talked about him earlier. This was one of the guys that all these idiots are saying was one of the two men that were giving these signals to the shooter, because he, at the time of the shooting, adjusted his cap. He was wearing a baseball hat. And this is one of Charlie's best friends, by the way. He's another like evangelical apologist that does similar stuff. He goes around and talks at college campuses and stuff. And so to say that he had a part in some kind of hit job or something is just, I don't know, it's just retarded. So that was his phone. So it was a view from behind him. He was recording Charlie at the time on his phone. And you can see in the background a slight, like a little dot on the phone reflected from the back that they're assuming was the muzzle flash. So this is, I guess, I guess it's saying that the shot came from behind, and that the blood coming out, like the hole in the front of his neck, was the exit wound. But I don't. The thing that doesn't make sense about that to me is that means the bullet would have went into the crowd and hit somebody. So I don't know about that one. I personally don't really have the stomach to I don't really want to desensitize myself to the close-up video and having to analyze it and look at the blood spatter and stuff. Like I just don't want to desensitize myself to that. I was shocked when I first saw it because of how gruesome it was. And that should be a shock to you. That's the whole reason that's part of the psychological warfare and all this, by the way. That's like why the assassinations are crucial. That's why someone actually has to die. Part of the reason why. Because when it exposes the whole world to that gruesome thing that happened. I mean, with JFK, think about it. Like they saw the president's head get blown off. Like literally the side of his head got blown off. Like you saw his scalp go over his head. That's part of why it's so effective, because it inflicts mass trauma upon everyone that sees it. So I didn't want to keep replaying that to try to observe all that stuff. Like I'm not a forensics guy. I'm not a ballistics guy. Like it would just be, all I'm doing is just desensitizing myself to gore. Like that's all I would be doing, is I wouldn't be able to actually figure anything out from that. So if someone else has something substantial on that, fine. It just doesn't make sense to me that the bullet exited the front and didn't hit anybody in the audience or anything in the audience. It was an entrance wound that we saw. Yeah, I agree. I mean, look, a lot of this stuff is like, you have all these people, like these ballistics experts. Like, how many people have you seen get shot in the jugular? Oh, nobody? Okay. So you have no frame of reference to know if that's an entry or exit wound, because you can't see the exit wound or the entry. Like if you don't know what an entry or exit wound looks like for that caliber hitting a jugular, and you can't see the other side, you really don't have anything to judge that by. So I'm not interested in that. Again, all I would be doing is just desensitizing myself to gore.
Semites, there are people who hate
Right.
Israel who are anti-Semites. There's a whole range. And then there are like people who have like, religious reasons for wanting to blow up Israel. Those are all threats. Why would they be attacking you and Charlie? And honestly, I feel like me. I mean, what is that? Why attack people who are pretty reasonable, who don't want to get into a fight on the topic, who just want to like have their country thrive? Why?
Yeah, sorry to interrupt this, but there's another widely held belief that still people are holding on to. So again, it's like you're starting to see all these factions within this like bigger conspiracy start to emerge, and people are really holding on to these views almost religiously already. Because I've challenged some of them, and like you can tell these people aren't budging on it. It's like, are you new to conspiracy theories? You guys get how this works? And one of them is that he was wearing a bulletproof vest. So underneath he had a plate, and they were saying that the reason the entry wound was so big was because it ricocheted off the edge of the body armor, and it entered sideways or something. But that could be easily debunked because you can just see an image of, like, if you look at images of him, you can see his nipples through his shirt. There's one of him like hunched over in the chair, and there's no strap. Like he was wearing a white t-shirt. Why would you wear a white t-shirt with body armor? It doesn't even make sense. And so you can just look at his back when he's hunched over, and it's just like flat. It's like a normal t-shirt, how it's on your back. So you don't see any straps or anything. It just doesn't make any sense that he's wearing body armor. Again, it's like, do you know what that entry wound is supposed to look like in a jugular of that caliber? No, you don't.
I denounce them as dangerous anti-Semites. What is that?
And let me just underscore for your audience what I had said. I mean, the sum total of what I had said when they started coming for me, just to show the absurdity of this. I had said on Piers Morgan that Israel was losing the PR war, that they had lost the Democrats and the independents, and were starting to lose the Republican Party in America, and it was time to wrap it up, which was a quote from Donald Trump, who had said it a year earlier when he was still a candidate. Time to wrap it up. That's what I said about Israel. And then at Turning Point at the Student Action Summit with Charlie, we talked all about Epstein in my appearance there. It was all about Pam Bondi, frankly.
Right.
And we talked about whether he might possibly be an asset for someone. And I said he might be. And Israel, would make sense to me. Didn't know, but that's one of the things we should consider and look at. And that will conclude the list of things I said about Israel. That after 2 years.
So it doesn't matter, though. That's enough. That's all you need to say. They do not want that. You're not allowed to say that. You cannot associate basically the most notable supervillain of our time with Israeli intelligence. That's blasphemy to Israel. You cannot do that. It doesn't matter. That's all that you said. It doesn't matter.
Of going on the air and defending them every week turned some weird crowd into, she's an anti-Semite. So, I mean, F these people, because it's a lie. It was even more of a lie about Charlie, who had said even less than me. He had said nothing.
Yeah. Hey, what's up, Dustin? I was talking about that earlier. Live leak. And for me, because I'm an OG internet veteran. Yes, I'm unk, as the Zoomers say. For me, it was rotten.com. That was prior to even Live Link, I believe, or Live Leak rather. And that was just like a pure gore site. Like Live Leak was at least not just gore, but rotten.com was like specifically a gore website. And it was, when I was a teenager, and it's like back then it was like a challenge thing. You'd get together with your buddies and go on the internet together and see what kind of crazy stuff you could find. And that was like one of the sites you'd go on and just like see how queasy your friends get or whatever. It was like kind of fun in a sick, twisted way. But I've seen a lot of stuff that I wished I hadn't seen. That's embedded in my subconscious. And what I was saying earlier was like, even though I had some kind of desensitization of gore from that, and from seeing Live Leak videos, and from being on the Twitter timeline where you see the occasional gore video without your consent, it just shows up on your feed. even though I had been desensitized, seeing it happen to Charlie Kirk in such a violent and bloody manner made me physically sick, because of the fact that in some weird way we developed a parasocial relationship with this guy, whether you liked him or not. It was just very shocking to see. I think that would be the case with any public figure, even if you hated the person. Like if that happened to like Hassan, you would still be pretty shocked. Like you'd be probably equally shocked if it happened to anyone, like someone if it happened to Destiny, anyone, right? That's just like so shocking to see that happen to someone who you've seen hours of their videos. So that had a big part in that. Again, it plays into the whole like psychological warfare of assassination. That's why assassination is so effective. And these people saying that he wasn't really killed are retarded, because the whole point is for blood to be shed. It's a ritual. Okay, let me get back to this here. I just lost my place. Where are we? Okay.
Like absolutely nothing. And they use those terms about him because he was on the other side of me when we had that discussion, and because he hosted you, and because he had the nerve to invite Dave Smith in a debate, because he allowed one side to be represented, and he had the Israel side fully represented too. So this was just such an unfair accusation. And I don't know why these very ardent advocates don't accept friendship when you offer it, when you've proven that you are genuinely a friend. I've said openly, Tucker, I don't want to debate. I'm on their side. There's no reason to put somebody on the show so they can convince me that Israel's right. I'm on their side. I agree with that. But in response to those comments, and then ultimately having Marjorie Taylor Greene on, where we criticized AIPAC.
So you can see that kind of like the kosher conservatives who are to some degree criticizing Israel, and Charlie Kirk too. We saw this earlier in his interview with Megyn Kelly. They still, because they're in this transitionary phase, like they eventually will be radicalized. I think they will. The more they talk about this, they're already starting to notice how they're being harassed for it, like nothing else that they've ever talked about, and so it's just going to keep pushing them further. But they notice how they all have to put out that outlier, like that preface. They have to preface it with like, oh, I still love Israel and I still want them to win. I still think they're the good guys, but I'm just asking questions. That's what Charlie Kirk was saying, right? So it's like they still, like you can tell that there's that fear, that they're aware of that taboo, that you're not allowed to cross over that threshold, which they're not even really clear on what it is. They're in the process of figuring that out. So they all still have to talk about how they love Israel, even as they criticize them.
I mean, who defends a lobbyist group? They treated me like I was Mehdi Hassan. Not everybody, but like the loudest Israel defenders. And to turn around and call Charlie Kirk an anti-Semite is such a disgusting smear. And you're right, he's young. He was young and wasn't used to being attacked like that by people who supported him and people whose donations are actually really important to the ongoing existence of his organization. And it took a lot for him to say no to them. And it took a lot for him to be honest about the fact that his opinions had evolved. And let's face it, Charlie was like an unofficial spokesperson for the youth of America, in particular conservative youth. And I don't know if people have checked, but they no longer support Israel. And everybody under 30 is against Israel. Charlie was 31. And so as a friend, he's saying to them, as same way I, as a friend, am saying, I am telling you, you've lost Dems, independents, and you're starting to lose Republicans. You need to wrap it up. You've had a 2-year long leash. I know you want your hostages back, but this cannot go on until you have every hostage back. It's just not going to, you're going to lose every friend you have. And that's what he was saying, because that's what he was hearing from his constituency. And so what he did to them was brave and noble to the donors who were very, very.
And I agree with that too. It was like, that was incredibly brave. Like he was in a sense more brave than like Nick Fuentes, who's been talking about it his whole career, to take any kind of nuanced position where you're evolving your views on Israel and starting to criticize them and ask questions even slightly, while your entire movement is funded by Zionists, is
Orthodox
incredibly
Boomer
brave.
Grandma donated $19.99 through Super Chat. This community is going to flourish. Thank you, Anthony of Westgate.
Thank you, Orthodox Boomer Grandma. I really appreciate the 20. Thank you so much. I hope so, God willing. Actually, yeah, God willing, if that's what happens. I appreciate the support. I really do. I know that you're here in the stream often. I really appreciate all of your support. So thank you so much for the 20. Much love. Yeah, I mean, it is incredibly brave. I give Charlie Kirk that credit. We were all pretty harsh on him and stuff. I think it was, to some extent, it kind of worked because it was all that pushback that he saw in his replies of people calling him a shill and whatnot, that helped him to kind of like realize that there's immense pressure on him from his own from the conservative side of the aisle. He was starting to see that people were really not happy with his unwavering support of Israel, right? And so I think that bullying, I guess, kind of helped him to realize that there's pressure and that this doesn't appeal to the wider right-wing audience, right? Like he's starting to realize that, and a lot of these other people are. Tucker, Megyn Kelly, their audience is like mostly older people. They're not even young people, and they're starting to realize this. That's why they're talking about it more. So it's losing its popularity. People are waking up, and these content creators, these journalists, these pundits and stuff, they have to start acknowledging that. And that's what Kirk realized. And he started to, value that. This is, speculatively, I believe that he started to value his dignity and his pursuit of truth more than the Zionist funding. So for him to turn down, if it's true, if this anonymous insider source that Candace Owens apparently is the only person that has insight to, which Megyn Kelly just alluded to. So I'm not even sure how deep that goes. But allegedly, the story is that Netanyahu offered Turning Point $150 million to take a more ardent stance on being pro-Zionist. And Kirk turned it down. He turned down an invitation to Israel from Netanyahu. So there was, speculatively, there was some pushback and some, turning point in his views on this, and that's, incredibly dangerous in his position. It's life threatening, and he unfortunately, if this is what happened, he paid with his life. I mean, this is literally a deadly thing to be talking about on such a huge platform. So someone was mentioning earlier, Nick Fuentes. I touched on this a little bit earlier. I will try not to be so redundant, but yeah, Nova, Black Flame Nova said here, Nick Fuentes taking over Turning Point would be lol-worthy. Zionists would absolutely, yeah, they wouldn't allow it. And we already saw any sentiment of that happening coming from Ben Shapiro. He said that he would pick up the bloody mic literally said that, by the way, that we're going to pick up his bloody mic and take over. And we know that he wouldn't be in any danger of being assassinated because he's a dual citizen. So that would be the only, again, I said this earlier, but nobody's going to do this after they saw what happened to Charlie Kirk, that they could just get whacked at any moment. They're not going to just start doing these open events at a college or anywhere where you can just get clipped at any moment. No one has the security. I mean, look, they took a shot at Trump, and he had the most, he had literally the Secret Service as security, and a guy was able to take multiple shots at him. So nobody has the ability to stop something like that in a mass public event now. Like, this set a new precedence now where we actually saw someone get killed. It wasn't just like this miraculous thing that happened with Trump where it's like it clipped his ear. So go back earlier in the stream. I think towards the beginning, I was talking about the how that shedding of blood from Trump, even though it was like a trickle of blood from his ear in that viral image, which is now a historic image that's embedded in our psyche. It's very important for this, like, because that basically conditioned us to seeing bloodshed in an event like this on a political stage.
Pro-Israel. It was brave and it was noble. He did not deserve to be smeared over it. And look, I like you, have zero belief that this had anything to do with his death, but it's part of the larger narrative that you're making.
I do. I believe
was
it.
a truth teller, that he was a fearless truth teller, and that there were a lot of pockets when he turned to them and said those truths that grew extremely uncomfortable.
Well, as they say, follow the money, right? If you want to find out who did this, that's probably your best bet. Follow the money. Whose pockets hurt the most from Charlie Kirk changing his views? If that, again, presumably, if that's what this was. Now, you could dismiss all of this and just say, well, it was just some radicalized furry from Discord. That guy we looked at earlier with the plain t-shirts. If you want to buy the official narrative and just go with that and say, well, no, it was actually this mass Trantifa terror cell, and that's it. But I actually think that that's part of the psyop, because like this is just like back in the day, like, so in the JFK days, it was the commies. It was like, just pin it on the boogeyman and the whole population will buy it as the narrative, and you'll rile them up for like some kind of civil war type thing. And that's what they're doing. So like, what's the boogeyman now? It's like it's trans activists and stuff. That's like the radical left-wing extremists. That's kind of the modern communist. They happen to be trannies. And so that's what I think is going on there. That's why they framed it. You know, if they did frame it, maybe he really is a furry, and he got into all this degenerate, can I say corn? Can I say that word? I don't even know. It doesn't matter anymore. I've said enough things. He got into all this degenerate pornography and stuff, right? That's probably part of it. I mean, that's like modern MK Ultra conditioning, right? It's like all this stuff that they're seeing online, mimetic warfare. It's like happening through memes too. So maybe that's part of it, but it's like, they probably groomed him to set him up as a patsy or something.
And whether it was some online, disgusting, messed up 22-year-old in Utah, or, somebody who couldn't stand his messaging that was very frank around race or around Islam, whatever, take your pick. He's said the hard truths on all of these things. I think a lot of people have to have a really ugly conversation with themselves now in the wake of his death about whether they added to the hate surrounding him.
And for Benjamin Netanyahu, really tormented Charlie. We talked about it many times. He tormented Charlie, and his advocates tormented Charlie. For him to run around saying that Charlie died for Israel is just too much. It's just disgusting. And as his friend, I feel morally bound to say that.
That statement was out of line. No, I agree with you. And
Netanyahu shouldn't be saying anything about this. It doesn't involve, like, if this doesn't involve Israel, why is Netanyahu saying anything? It was the assassination of a public American figure who's, speaking about politics and culture. What does that have to do with Benjamin Netanyahu? What does that have to do? Like, what other presidents of any other countries are putting out these videos almost on a daily basis saying how they didn't do it?
Never talk about Bibi Netanyahu. I don't really think much about him. I just don't. I had the opportunity to interview him a couple months ago, and I declined. I'm just not. No, I just don't want to. I didn't want to platform him. I didn't actually, frankly, want to do all the work that I would have to do to sufficiently interview him in a way that would be, tough, as I do when I have any foreign leader in my crosshairs. Yes. I just wasn't interested. Whatever. For him to do what he did was wrong. It was a moral wrong to sit out there and read part of Charlie's letter and try to have the final say on Charlie's pronunciations about Israel. And he knew that they weren't the full story. And he's a foreign leader. He's not an American leader. So how
Exactly.
dare he? You know, at best, you come out there, you say, I'm so sorry
Right.
for this loss. My prayers to his family. That's it. He was out of line, Tucker. And I, as not even a Netanyahu critic, saw it very clearly and talked about it today.
And don't forget, Netanyahu was the first to announce that he was the first to send out any condolences. He beat out Donald Trump. He was the first to send a condolence on Twitter for Charlie Kirk before it was even announced by President Trump that he was dead. So, and then you're going to follow that up with like, oh, we didn't do it. We didn't have any knowledge of it. We don't know. Like, oh, it's not us. Stop blaming us. So it's very sus. It's like, again, maybe you're not going to get this smoking gun, but you can look at all this stuff and just start connecting things and say it's likely that they did. You don't have to take this strong stance and start debating it and stuff, but it's like, look, man, just like take all this stuff in a holistic approach. This is what makes way more sense than the narrative we're getting from the FBI. I'm not getting anything from the conspiratards. They're still trying to figure out how he assembled the rifle and all this stuff. It's like, you're just assuming that kid has anything to do with this other than being a fall guy. We didn't even talk about the first guy the actual patsy. We didn't even get into that. I get into that in my article here. So we can look at that for a sec. But this guy, really sus. Actually, let me go back to Twitter because I think there's a thread on this or something. Let me just see if I can find this real quick. Yeah, okay, here it is. Yeah, let's get into this actually. So this Jewish patsy who actually is like known to be a political gladfly. He was involved in the bombing. He called in a false bombing at a marathon in Utah. Okay. He was in this weird 9/11 video. I don't know if it's here. George Zinn is his name.
Voltru donated $5 through Super Chat. Kinda
you,
had the
Voltru.
stream as background noise. Do you think the kid was the actual shooter?
I don't know. It doesn't seem like it. I'm siding on it not being him. I think there's more. It's less likely that he was the shooter than that he was. We don't have any other suspects. That's all we've got. We got him and this guy. Those are the only two suspects. This Jewish guy, George Zinn. So I don't think so. But even if it was, I still don't think that means it just stops at, some radicalized furry. I think it would be really hard to make a case that was him. And I think, we're going to look at his text too, because they're super, like they're so fake. I think what's actually going on, I said this in the beginning of the stream, is that this kid can't afford a defense attorney, right? They have him on suicide watch. He showed up to it was a remote initial hearing. Like it wasn't really a hearing. He was just hearing his, the charges that they were going to be convicting him with, in the trial. And he doesn't have enough money to afford an attorney. So the state has to provide him with a defense attorney, and no one wants to do it because of the implications of this, like how monumental this event is, and all the political implications, and all people attacking them, doxing them, stuff, all the safety things involved with that. And plus, who wants to defend a suspect for an assassination of a beloved political figure? Like, who wants to do that? Imagine, like, this would be the equivalent to, like, being the defense attorney for Lee Harvey Oswald. Not that Kirk was a president, but it's like he was of that status, right? So I think what's going on is that they're manufacturing all of this evidence that they're going to leverage in the trial, and knowing that he's going to have basically a state attorney or something that's like an inside job Like he's got no defense, basically. He cannot choose his own defendant or his own attorney, his defense attorney. So who knows what's going on, but it seems very obvious that they're manufacturing evidence against him. Because look, you present these fake texts to the court, and what does he have? Oh no, I didn't write that. That's not me. I didn't do that. It was a setup. Okay, prove it. Prove that they manufactured that. You have to do that now. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be, unless he gets Epsteined,
Voltru donated $10 through Super Chat. This George Zinn character was both involved in 9/11 and in a suspected terrorist attack back in 2002 for a state government election. He is definitely an asset.
Absolutely. I totally agree. Thanks for the 10, man. That's what we're getting into here. So he was, this screenshot is from the 9/11 video. I want to see if I can find it. And look at that. He was raised Mormon too. Did that say what I think it said? The 19-month-old boy was adopted from a Greek orphanage recently by Mr. and Mrs. Overton. Overton Zinn, huh? So he's adopted. Yeah. I don't know where that 9/11 video is. I know I had it saved somewhere. Here's more on him. Yeah. George Zinn, who was arrested at the Charlie Kirk shooting, was in a 9/11 video. He knew Al-Qaeda was responsible for the 9/11 attack the moment he saw the towers fall. Here he is, Utah man charged with making a bomb threat at a marathon. So he called in a false bomb threat. I wrote something here about him, if I can find that. Oh, here it is. I posted the video here. One thing is clear when it comes to Tyler Robinson, chalking up Kirk's public murder as merely a Trantifa terror cell plot orchestrated by a newly radicalized furry sharpshooter leaves more questions than answers, especially when considering the complexity of the Patsy situation. The initial detained suspect, George Hodson Zinn, fits the classic profile of a crisis actor. Despite being a lifelong resident of Utah, Zinn appeared in a September 11th propaganda video where he stated he witnessed the towers fall and immediately knew Al-Qaeda was responsible. So here's the video. I mean, we're not going to watch the whole thing, but
it was an interesting time when I went to, I was in Denver just on September 10th, 2001, and I'm a huge Broncos fan, so I was. It was the opening night of Denver Broncos Stadium. I went down there, and we were playing the Giants that night, and so it was a huge event for us. I even remembered everything that happened.
So
we opened the stadium.
So wait, was he there or not?
Immediately chaos in that hotel lobby. There was everybody.
Oh, so it wasn't even at Ground Zero.
Because there'd been attacked like several years earlier in the basement of that tower. We thought that this was the same guy that had come in and just kind of finished the job, and so Denver immediately turned. Now Denver does have a World Trade Center, but it's really not on the same level as the one in New York City.
Interesting.
It was kind of business as usual for a while. And then that night, they had frozen all the airplanes and all the flights out. I couldn't get home. So I was stuck a little bit longer.
I just noticed this. Look at the name of this Major. What is the name of this foundation? Major Brent Taylor Foundation. Let's do a little bit of a live exploration here because that is very sus. Let's do a little live research. And I'll tell you why that's sus. Major Brent Taylor Foundation. Okay. I didn't even notice that until just now. And here's why that's relevant.
Jonathan Kelly donated $5 through Super Chat. He was there in his mind.
Yeah, thank you, Jonathan. Yeah, yeah, he imagined all that. Yeah, he was there. And like, why is that even a video? Who cares what some guy in a hotel in Denver thought of 9/11? What happened there? Why is that even a video? That's so bizarre. So here's why that Taylor Foundation is very interesting. Zinn's profile as a patsy and political gadfly doesn't stop there. His arrest sparked an, okay, this isn't it, but I'll read this anyway. His arrest sparked an investigation into possession of cheese pizza, a commonality shared with Stephen Paddock, the 2017 Las Vegas mass shooting suspect who is widely believed to be a patsy. Okay, I think I skipped it. I think it's up here, what I'm getting at. Yeah. Okay.
Voltru donated $5 through Super Chat. How much for a channel shout out?
Oh, dude, I'll shout out your channel right now. I think you've donated quite a bit, if that's something that you would like to have me do. But yeah, check out. You can send it in the chat. I don't even know what the channel is, but yeah, dude, post it in the chat, man. Yeah, go check out Voltruo's channel. He's been making some YouTube videos, real cozy, conversational type videos that you guys might enjoy. Get some insights with Voltruo. I don't know what it's called, but yeah, go ahead, man. You can post it here.
Voltru donated $5 through Super Chat. I think the CP they found on him is low-key planted.
Yeah, well, that's I think what happened with. I think that's what happened with what's his name, Paddock, because they tried to do it with his brother too, and it was found that they planted it. It was like they were actually in the investigation. They found that he was not in possession of it or something. So there could be that too. Although I wouldn't put it past him. That, I mean, look at the guy. I mean, not that it means like anything by his looks, but I mean, it kind of fits the profile of a PDF file too. So here's what I'm getting at with this Tyler thing. Where is it? Yeah. Interestingly, Lance's father. So Lance is the boyfriend of Tyler Robinson, the currently investigated or the one and only suspect they have in custody. Okay, so this is the alleged shooter, Tyler Robinson. He has this boyfriend who's trans. And his name is Lance, what's his name? Lance something. Lance Twiggs, okay? So Lance's father is also named Tyler, and he was a Mormon missionary with alleged ties to St. George Masonic Lodge 33. There's a thread on this too. I'll just briefly show that here. It's not super important, but there's a whole thread on this. Oops, I closed the thing. Hang on. This is the guy he's connected to that he works with. He's a real estate agent. And he works with this guy. Order of 9 Angels on his shirt. Satanic shirt. This is my will to know the dark something. I don't know, but he's like involved in all the satanic stuff. So there he is in the lodge. He's the worshipful master at his lodge. Okay. So there's a lodge called St. George Lodge, and St. George, that's where they're from. So keep in mind, this is another really suspicious thing. Tyler Robinson lives like 6 hours away from UVU, where the shooting occurred. So it's like he didn't go to UVU. He wasn't a former student. He had no association with UVU. He drove apparently 6 hours to do this. Which, you know, it's not like that's like unlikely for someone that motivated to do, like to just drive 6 hours. But it's just like, really, it was just, he was within a day drive or something. Right. So it's still like, he wasn't even a local or anything like that. Again, not like that matters. It doesn't disprove anything, but so anyway, Tyler is the name given to the Masonic officer who guards the outer door from unauthorized entry into the lodge to ensure any secrets remain within. The patsy plays a similar role in an assassination by becoming a scapegoat to guard the secret of the true culprit. In the aftermath of the JFK assassination, pictures of Patsy Lee Harvey Oswald after his arrest show a cut over his eye caused by a Masonic ring Detective Paul Bentley was wearing that day. It is worth noting that the first shot to hit JFK also penetrated his throat, just kind of a side synchronicity there. But yeah, there's this famous photo of that cut above his right eye that was from, I guess, I would assume getting punched in the head with a Masonic ring.
Vulture just donated a $50 gem.
Bro.
Thank you for the shout out. Christ is King and Lord.
Christ is King indeed. Thank you for the fat $50 gem, man. I really appreciate that. You don't even have to do all that, but I appreciate the overwhelming support from you, man. I'm glad to help you out with getting your channel started. Yeah, so a lot of people don't even know that. Like that's what the cut's from. He got punched by the detective who was wearing a Masonic ring. That's also symbolic of the covering of the eye, right? That you see in the Masonic symbology. So anyway, that's the context of that Tyler thing. So I want to go back up to, or wherever this was, the video. Sorry for all the scrolling. Okay. Now this was, what was it called? The Brent Tyler Foundation. Let's look this up. I mean, even if this is nothing, that's pretty interesting, right? That you have that Tyler thing. So now there's a Tyler connected with the first Patsy and the second Patsy. And now you know what the Masonic Tyler is. He guards the secrets of the, in this case, symbolic of the Patsy. Okay. A little bit of I don't know if this is going to go anywhere. It may not, but it might be fun. Brent Tyler was a lawyer in Quebec, Canada, known for his frequent court challenges of Bill 101, Quebec's charter for the French language. Okay, so that's kind of nothing, right? Can we find out about him? Political activities. Let me make this bigger. Go dark. Okay, political activities. He was an unsuccessful candidate for the Equality Party, riding the Westmount St. Louis. Okay. So it seems like he's just really into French language. Oh, okay. During his Alliance Quebec tenure, the press characterized him as having a brazen ramrod persona and criticized him for a hair-trigger temper. Okay. Not really much there. Yeah, so this isn't really going anywhere. At least the Wikipedia at least starts there, but Brent Tyler, huh? Let's see, Brent Tyler, Canada. I mean, it's kind of a common name too, so might not be able to find much here. I'm going to have to probably look into this a little more. Yeah, you can see that the results are just not great. Oh, here. I don't know if this is him. World Financial Group. No, that's definitely not him. Yeah, so it's kind of a hard name to find anything on that because it's such a dude with two first names type of thing. So I don't know. Interesting though. At least, like I said, at least that name came resurfaced even with the other Patsy. So okay, and another very suspicious thing here. When they first caught him and had him in custody, listen to what he says.
Shoot me! Shoot me! Was that you? We don't know if it's him or not.
He's saying, "Shoot me." So, I mean, this guy's just a chaos agent, right? It's like maybe that probably just means nothing and he's just causing chaos, right?
Hey, let him be! You disgrace those garments, you mock God! Hey, leave it.
So, shoot me. Interesting. Okay. Yeah, that's all I got on him. Got a few more things maybe, and then we'll call it. But, yeah, thank you guys, all of you who've supported the stream. I really super appreciate it, especially our champion, our champion Pay Piggy Volturo. Again, go check out his channel. Almost at 1K. Let's get him to 1K. Did you post it there in the chat? There you go. Yeah, YouTube Volturu with 3 U's. Yeah, drawing attention to himself. Yeah, exactly. Where are we here? I lost my place. Oh, we're back here. Okay. Sorry. So that's George Zinn. Yeah, this was a crazy video. It's only 37 seconds.
And the number and Jewish donors, they have a lot of explaining to do, a lot of decoupling to do, because Jewish donors have been the number one funding mechanism of radical, open border, neoliberal, quasi-Marxist policies, cultural institutions, and nonprofits. This is a beast created by secular Jews.
Whoa.
And now it's coming for Jews, and they're like, what on earth happened? And it's not just the colleges. It's the nonprofits, it's the movies, it's Hollywood, it's all of it. It's like time for you guys to wake up and say no more. Draw a line in the sand. I don't care if you hate me.
That's kind of crazy for someone of his status. That's a crazy thing to say. That's like he was almost like he became too based for his own good. And I know it's like crazy that we're saying this about Charlie Kirk, but we've seen enough clips now to see that he was definitely heading in this direction. Okay, this is what I wanted to, maybe we'll call it after this, because, here, I bookmarked some of these insane Zionists. Dr. David Eli, this guy's unhinged. This is an unhinged Zionist. He should be in jail, this guy. Happy first anniversary of Pagers Day. That is so sick. What a demon. And by the way, Netanyahu... This is the definition of like Jewish chutzpah, right? Which, by the way, there's no translation for that word in English. It's like strictly a Jewish thing. It's like very specific to Jewish, like gall, I guess is a word for it. Like it's like you have the gall to do that, right? So it's chutzpah. It's like you saw this with Netanyahu when he presented Trump with the golden pager as a gift. How sick is that? So here's what I want to read. This is what they're crafting. This is what the FBI... Now look at... This isn't even like a transcript for... What is this? It's not even a screenshot. This is like... They could have just typed this out. Okay, so now the context of this is... there's a note that apparently... allegedly... This is the story that the FBI crafted, right? So there was a note that allegedly had a confession on it. It was a Post-it note that was underneath... Tyler Robinson's keyboard, and only his gay roommate knew this. And so he wrote the confession on this Post-it note that we don't have, apparently. And this was the exchange that occurred after. Okay. So after reading the note, the roommate responded, "What? You're joking, right?" Robinson says, "I'm still okay, my love." But I'm struck in Orem for a little while longer yet. Shouldn't be long until I can come home, but I gotta grab my rifle still. To be honest, I had hoped to keep this secret till I died of old age. I am sorry to involve you. So right, like the first message, they make it so that he's like, implicating himself like to all these different ways. You weren't the one who did it, right? I am. I'm sorry. So like they just crafted this confession. I thought they caught the person. No, they grabbed some crazy old dude, then interrogated someone in similar clothing. I had planned to grab my rifle from my drop point shortly after, but most of that side of town got locked down. It's quiet, almost enough to get out, but there's one vehicle lingering. Okay, so like what the feds are doing here is just like crafting their whole narrative in the context of this text exchange. So this is like their big, piece of evidence here. It's so fake and gay. It's so fake. Okay. Why did I do it? Yeah. Okay. So now so again, within like 5 messages, there's a confession, tying the evidence to the suspect. And now he's going to tell his motive. So the roommate didn't know all this, right? Like he just did it. Tyler did it secretly. The roommate didn't know until he saw this note. And now he's telling him all the stuff that he was plotting that he didn't share with his love, right? Like the person he loves, apparently. He didn't share this all, that he was like plotting this in secret. It's like, this is so retarded. Okay, so here's his intent. I had enough of his hatred. Some hate can't be negotiated out. If I'm able to grab my rifle unseen, I will left with no evidence. Going to attempt to retrieve it again. Hopefully they have moved on. I haven't seen anything about them finding it. So he's like following the news and seeing if they found the rifle, but he's also, texting, or I guess this is a text. I don't know if this was on Discord. I don't think it was Discord. We apparently don't have the Discord logs. By the way, if you want to know why we don't have the Discord logs, another indictment for Israel. Okay, let's take a look here. I don't think it's him, but oh, this is a different guy. Current CEO of Discord, Jason Citron, dual citizen. Well, at least Ashkenazi. I don't know if he's a dual citizen, but let's check out the founder of Discord. Oh, he is the founder. CEO. The CEO is a dual citizen, born in Nazareth, Israel. So Discord is an Israeli communication technology. That's why we don't have the Discord logs right there. I mean, why else? Why else do we not have the Discord logs? Discord saying that they don't have them. He was never on Discord, and the FBI is saying that he was. What's going on here? So I don't know where this conversation happened that we're looking at here, but and I know it's like it's like all blurry or whatever. I don't know if you guys can actually read this, so I'll just read it myself. So the reason he did this was because he had enough of Charlie's hatred. You can't negotiate it out. You can't debate out of it. So like this is the narrative that they're crafting, in which unironically people on the right are eating this up. That this was just like the left hates us so much they want us killed, which there's truth to that. So again, they're playing on this this real polemic that's occurring. This real, like, this is Hegelian dialectics. Like, this is just a dialectic that that we're all playing a part of, like, collectively, I will have no evidence. Going to attempt to retrieve it. Okay, so then, the next question. How long have you been planning this? A bit over a week, I believe. I can get close to it, but there is a squad car parked right by it. I think they already swept that spot, but I don't want to chance it. I'm wishing I had circled back and grabbed it as soon as I got to my vehicle. I'm worried what my old man would do if I didn't bring back Grandpa's rifle. I don't even know if it had a serial number, but it wouldn't trace back to me. I worry about, so how do you not know if it has a serial number? You like chose your grandpa's like any rifle you choose for this kind of thing, assassination, like you have to know that it has a serial, like you have to know that. Come on. Like he was dumb enough that he didn't know, like he was so dumb he didn't know that, but he was able to pull this off. And this is a smart kid, by the way. Apparently he was like, at least like in terms of public education, he was an honor roll student, high honors, I believe. I worry about Prince. I had to leave it in a bush where I changed outfits, didn't have the ability or time to bring it with. I might have abandoned it and hope they didn't find Prince. How the F will I explain losing it to my old man? Only thing I left was the rifle wrapped in a towel. Remember how I was, this is all one text, by the way. Remember how I was engraving bullets? Remember how, that, so referencing another thing that, another thing that the feds could have just easily created that narrative too. So, what he's referencing here is like all the bullets apparently had these engravings of like this meme slop. One of them was like something about like, I think the one that killed Charlie, the bullet had engraved on it, notices bulge. Ooh, whatever the furry thing is. And that's like, notices bulge UWU. And that's like someone found out that was a reference to like being a trans chaser, like a guy that likes troons and like chases after them. So if I see notices bulge UWU on Fox News, I might have a stroke already. I'm gonna have to leave. And it was funny that they were like saying that, like that was, but like yeah. So I think that's maybe what he's referring to. All right, I'm going to have to leave. It really effing sucks. That's all in one text. That's so fake.
Voltru donated $5 through Super Chat. Wait, so the roommate knew nothing about this happening but would remember him engraving bullets?
Yeah. That's a great point. I didn't even catch that. Yeah, the roommate had no clue that this was happening and was in total shock, but he saw him engraving bullets. And he didn't question that. I mean, look, maybe that's just like a thing that these radicalized furries do or something. Because, like, don't forget the shooter of that Catholic school did the same thing. He wrote all this meme slop all over his rifles and stuff in his magazines. So, I don't know if that's like a thing within these Antifa terror cells or something. But how could you see that kind of thing and not be like, hey man, what's going on? What's going on, big guy? Why are you why are you engraving bullets, bro? Definitely really sus. Like, what the heck is that? Remember those bullets I was engraving? His messages are mostly a big meme. Yeah, really makes no sense. So I suspect that's what's going on. I started bookmarking all these Zionist accounts, these Zio shills or whatever. So we're going to see more of that. Thank you, Dustin. Yeah, I didn't read the TTS, but yeah, that's a lot of text per casing. Yeah, I know. Yeah, well, one of them apparently said, "Hey, fascists, catch this." And these were 30-06 rounds. Let's take a look at what a 30-06 round looks like. Okay, I mean, yeah, that's a long enough round that you could probably, yeah, okay. You could probably fit the meme slop that they were writing on there, to be fair. Yeah, those are large rounds. Yeah, yeah. I mean, still, it's like, what are you doing, bro? He didn't even have a bolt action rifle. He used his grandpa's rifle. So like, this is a kid that didn't have a bolt action rifle, maybe didn't even have a gun with him, and he's engraving bullets, and the roommate is like, not like asking any questions about that. He's not like, hey bro, what's going on here? So very bizarre. And I mean, you know, the story of this kid is like, you know, they have all these photos of him. He's like from an outdoors family. I think there may be a photo of him at a range or something, but looked like he was going on fishing trips and stuff. So if that's, you know, if that's like this kid that they chose or whatever, you know, there is a likelihood that he had experience shooting. Now, pulling off something like that, something of like a professional hit job, that's another thing. So yeah, lots of really bizarre inconsistencies and stuff in this report. So you don't want conspiracy theories to spread. Make better psyops. How about that? We deserve better psyops. You don't want us speculating all this stuff and blaming Israel? Okay, you need to make a better story then. This isn't even a good story. I'm not even interested in the FBI story at all because it's not interesting. There's just like nothing there. So what else do we have? You know? So, all right, guys. Well, I think that's enough from me. I think we've done enough of this, and you know, only so much you could look at. So I hope that this, you know, maybe tried to make some sense of things for you guys. I'm not here to impose some kind of narrative or anything like that, but you know, maybe this at least makes some sense now. But yeah, I don't know where to leave you other than try not to get too wrapped up in this stuff. This is going to be going on for a long time. Likely people will be spending decades researching this and trying to figure out what happened. And maybe another kind of JFK type situation. It's important to not get too wrapped up in the psyops because you can easily get psyoped by doing that. So I would say stay tuned for my upcoming podcast, the next one that I release. It may be at some point over the weekend, if not early next week, because we go really deep into this stuff. I had my guest, his name is Payload. And you guys may not be familiar with him, but I think that you'll find it really interesting, the conversation, because we go really deep into Michael Hoffman's work, Matthew Raphael Johnson, E. Michael Jones, these kind of guys that like we all share a lot of common influence from in the work we're doing. So I think you'll really enjoy that conversation. It's over 2 hours long, so stay tuned for that. That'll hopefully bring more clarity to just overall, like how these psyops work and why they're effective and stuff, and all the occult influence of all of this stuff. So yeah. All right, guys. Well, thank you for tuning in. God bless you all. Thank you so much to the donors for this stream. I suspect we won't be monetized here for very long if I continue covering this kind of stuff. So I do really appreciate all the donations, and I appreciate everyone who tuned in. If you just chilled and hung out and watched behind the scenes, thank you so much. I appreciate all of you. So we'll see you again next week for the live stream. Again, go to thereversion.co to become a paid monthly supporter and get behind the paywall, access to all my work, access to the book club that is ongoing every month. We hold meetings and do that all in private. We have private Q&As, stuff like that, Discord channels and all that. Maybe we'll get off Discord since it's an Israeli communications app. So we need to be careful there. So maybe we'll find another place to go soon. But yeah, all right, guys. Well, that's all I've got. So God bless, and we'll see you next time.